and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy TGIF to you, my little buddy.
Pretty happy Friday, man. What a long week. It's hard to believe that it was Monday that we were in Iowa.
Started the week at the Iowa caucus. And we apparently, Dom, unbeknownst to us, observed some caucus irregularities.
We broke the caucus. No, it wasn't us.
No, the caucus was broken. We have come to this realization. In retrospect, we witnessed a bad tally caucus. Precinct 9, Dubuque, Iowa.
Thank you. Crudy, this comes via The Hill. Discrepancies in Iowa caucus stoke questions. Okay.
Wait.
No, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I just want to make sure that we understand. Here's the premise. Here is the quote. Here is what we did not know at the time. Candidates that do not have sufficient support in the first round of caucusing are knocked out and cannot win support in the second alignment.
Now, do I have to fill in all the back channel detail?
Sure. I know you'd like to.
Well, I do. Someone's got to fill in the details. So we were at this caucus, as we've described on air. And first round of votes, Bernie Sanders led the field clearly. Second place was Pete Buttigieg. And third place was Elizabeth Warren. And they described 228 voters in the room, setting a threshold of viability in the room for 35.
15% of 228 is 35.
So, anywho, people went to their respective corners, the Bernie corner being biggest. And Joe Biden was at a threshold number of 28, 27? He was less than 35. Clearly less than 35.
Joe Biden was at 28. The numbers after the first round, Bernie, 78. Here's the notes from in the room, Crudy. Bernie was at 78. Pete Buttigieg, 39. Warren at 40. Yang at 26. Klobuchar at 17. And as mentioned, Biden at 28.
Okay, so that was first alignment, as it's called. And our impression was that the Klobuchar people had to go find a different candidate to support or go home. They could go home.
Yes, yep.
But they couldn't stay supporting Klobuchar because she was non-viable in the first round. And we saw the Klobuchar people break off. A lot of them, some went to Warren, few went to Buttigieg, and at least 7 went to the Biden team because he went from 28 to 35 with the disbursement of the Klobuchar people. And then the Yang people dispersed, primarily going to Bernie, although some did, granted, go to Buttigieg as well. And our friend, Adam Dahl, was there as an observer, a Wisconsinite, a Madisonian, a Bernie supporter. We saw him at the post party, the Bernie supportive party at the Smokestack or whatever it was called, the basement dive bar in Dubuque. And he said, I don't get it. And he texted us later in the evening. He said, I don't get it. Why did the Klobuchar people have to disband? And why did the Yang people have to disband, but not the Biden people? And I said, oh, well, that's clear. Because Klobuchar had the least number of people, so she went first. And then Biden's team, the Biden caucusers, they reached critical mass. They got their necessary threshold by the skin of their teeth, the 35. But then today, Dom, we go reading at thehill.com, and we realize that's not the way it is supposed to work.
The Hill points out a couple discrepancies here, and I'm just going to read 3 paragraphs. I'm going to be a little redundant because this is the point. One instance of apparent error in 2nd Precinct in Warren County shows that billionaire Steyer and former Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick received 50 and 41 votes respectively in the first round of caucusing. But on the second alignment, both candidates received 0 support, a result that flies in the face of caucus rules mandating that a candidate considered viable after the first round of voting cannot lose support in the second round. Conversely, and this is where this came to light for us, In the same precinct, Sanders and Warren were recorded as having received 0 votes in the first alignment and then picking up 44 and 51 votes in the second, a result that would also violate caucus rules because, and take a note, candidates that do not have sufficient support in the first round of caucusing are knocked out and cannot win support in the second alignment. We witnessed Biden being under the threshold of 50% in the first round and did not disperse as Klobuchar's did and as Yang supporters did. They actually picked him up and squeezed in based on the new people at 35, barely at 15%.
Well, you want to kick Biden while he's down.
I'm not kicking anybody, but we were not aware of this while we were in the room.
Well, we're not from Iowa. And that was not our understanding. And we actually defended the process. We found it very efficient. We thought it was well run. We just didn't realize it was done erroneously. Wouldn't it perhaps affected the broader overall outcome, although one must question what would have happened to the 35 Biden supporters?
Sure, of course.
Some would have walked out. Some would have said Biden or bust. But the vast majority would have dispersed amongst their second choice. And the Klobuchar people would not have been able to go and join. So anyways, a little intrigue at the Dubuque Precinct 9 Iowa caucus. And a little more intrigue this afternoon, Dom. Holy cats, we've got the assignment of delegates. And to my perception, Bernie Sanders got screwed again. Here's the headline at the New York Times. And, you know, I don't even know if you know, Dom. The New Hampshire primary is Tuesday. It's next week. In fact, if you don't know it, it's Friday Night Fights tonight. Dem presidential debate in New Hampshire going off tonight. They're going to have a new primary result before we see accurate caucus results from Iowa. We were there, and we still don't have results. It's Friday, and I'm still pissed about the incomplete results. And now I'm getting a little pissy about the fact, and that's vulgar, coarse language, I'm sorry, the president's kind of had that effect on me this week.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Buttigieg leads Sanders and Iowa delegates 13-12 with one outstanding. Mr. Buttigieg has picked up the most pledged delegates so far, but it's early in the Democratic race. Well, God bless it. He's getting that headline again. He gets to say Buttigieg leads the delegate race, right? That's going to be the headline from here through the New Hampshire primary. And I got to tell you, there are people at this moment, not in this room perhaps, maybe, we'll see how the show goes, but some people are calling for the head of Tom Perez, the DNC chairman. They want his head on a pike. And I haven't yet made that call, Dom, because we like Tom.
I got a little bit here, Crudy. A top Democratic voice on election reform is calling for the ouster of Tom Perez from the DNC, who has come under fire following the Iowa caucuses. Rep. Maria Fudge, a Democrat from Ohio, chairwoman of the House Administration Committee Subpanel on Elections, said Perez has failed to take responsibility for the Iowa vote counting debacle as it unfolded this week, instead shifting blame on lower-ranking party leaders in Des Moines. Here's her quote. "It's a lack of leadership. If you don't have the Iowa situation, you don't throw them under the bus. Let me rephrase this. If you have the Iowa situation, you don't throw them under the bus. You stand up and you support and you try to fix it. He doesn't lead on anything."
Well, apparently he didn't lead, Dom, but he waited about 3 days to interject himself, right? Maybe she expected leadership from Tom Perez, but this was a state party, if you know what I'm saying. Quick sound, and then I know we've got a break coming up here shortly. Let's get a little of the Chairman Tom Perez sound. Now, he will not be joining us today. Apparently, the Rachel Maddow, the only sound he will be providing, the Fair Media. Maybe if we were in New Hampshire tonight.
Actually, I was told that he won't even be doing the spin room today at all either.
He's not giving any more sound today.
That's my understanding.
Probably sick of the criticism. Let's play one soundbite at least. Tom Perez, the chairman, cut 60, if you would, Fancy Brian.
Delegates to the national convention is what the Iowa caucus is about, 41 delegates. And the problems that have been identified, and make no mistake about it, there were problems. What happened was unacceptable. The Iowa party acknowledged that they fell short. The chair apologized. At the same time, the delegate math is such that these issues, in all likelihood, are not going to affect the range of national delegates.
Tom, you're wrong. And the headline at the New York Times proves that out. Now, we talked about the fact Bernie Sanders claimed victory. He had 6,000 more votes on first alignment, 2,500 more votes than Buttigieg on second alignment, yet somehow these partial delegate math in some rural areas are worth more than some college towns. And it is very befuddling math because apparently even in the Dubuque caucus, with a very competent party chair, they screwed it up where we were watching. But these DEAs or whatever they're called, these partial delegate assignments in the entire state, there is a differential of 2 partial delegate assignments. And Buttigieg apparently has that 2 partial delegate assignment lead. I mean, hell, it's held all week, right? Every freaking headline, Pete Buttigieg leads. And he's certainly overperformed.
In the state delegate equivalents, but Bernie Sanders leads in the actual voting numbers.
So as the actual delegates, that is how you win the nomination, the national delegates, they were announced this afternoon, post Tom Perez soundbite, 13-12.
With one outstanding.
So the partial number lead is 2, despite the plurality of Iowans voting for Bernie Sanders. And yet somehow Buttigieg gets 1 more delegate to the national convention. I am not happy. It's Friday. We air our grievances. You can always join us. You can always air yours here at 844-967-2789. It's fight night. I want to get my fight on tonight, Tom. What about you? You going to watch the debate?
No, probably not. I've had a lot of politics this week. I'll be all right.
I'm just going to say one word.
Transcripts?
No. Disappointment. I am greatly disappointed in you, young man.
Get in line, man.
Behind your parents, your spouse, your children, all your friends,
Humanity.
Your neighbors. More Devil's Advocates on the other side.
Hey, there's something awfully screwy going on around here.
Dom, the Devil's Advocates are going on an adventure.
Join Crute and I for our inaugural 420-2020 celebration from our friends at Expedia Cruise Ship Centers of Madison. Our political party runs for 7 nights over the 420 holiday in sunny and cannabis-legal California. The Hilton La Jolla Torrey Pines is near the beach, boasting a world-class golf course, and is just a few minutes' drive from downtown San Diego.
Expedia prices, local service. Visit them on Madison's west side off Mineral Point Road or Google Expedia Cruise Ship Centers Madison.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Milwaukee is about to get greener this winter with the debut of the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo presented by the Shepherd Express on February 8, 2020 at the Wisconsin Center. It features exhibitors, speakers, and an estimated 2,000 plus attendees. This business-to-business and business-to-consumer one-day expo will feature over 100 exhibitors covering all angles of the industry. During the event, guests will have a chance to sample and purchase product, attend presentations from leading experts in the cannabis, CBD, and hemp industry, chat with thousands of cannabis enthusiasts, and network. Guests must be 18 or older to attend the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo. A limited number of tickets are available for this event. Advance tickets are $20 through February 7th. Tickets will be available at the door for $28 while supplies last. For more information or to buy tickets, visit wicannabisexpo.com, wicannabisexpo.com.
Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter, of course, on the phones. Toll-free talk or text. It's Friday. We air our grievances. Been doing that a lot lately, but especially on Fridays. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I've had a Iowa caucus kind of week. The whole week, it's felt like how the Democratic Party has run the Iowa caucuses. Couple more from Tom Perez. Oh, hold on. We need Fancy Brian. When he comes back into the booth, we'll get to a little more sound from Tom Perez. But here's what Bernie didn't get. Here's why Bernie, to my perception, got screwed. Because he didn't get his bump. If you win the state of Iowa, if you win the popular vote, even if there's going to be some sort of delegate assignment, I mean, that should have been done Monday night or Tuesday at the latest. Bernie should have gotten his bump. Buttigieg, no doubt, should have gotten a bump. Unexpected rise of Buttigieg. He deserves good and positive headlines. But as Bernie Sanders mentioned from New Hampshire yesterday, by all other metrics, Bernie won the frickin' state of Iowa, and we personally witnessed at least a discrepancy of 35 votes in the Dubuque 9th precinct because the lack of viability of Joe Biden as a candidate at the caucus
In the first round,
was
disqualifies
completely
him.
handled improperly. And if they reviewed and looked at first alignment, 28 for Biden, second alignment, 35 for Biden, they should come to the realization Biden didn't reach viability in the first round. If you don't make it there, you can't make it in the second round. And those 35 votes presumably get, thrown out? Do you redo the caucus? I mean, you can't do that. There's no way of going back and remedying this. There's no way to go back and give Bernie his bump. I mean, Buttigieg, no doubt, he has gotten a large bump in the polling. Buttigieg, in a week, is up 13 points in New Hampshire. Buttigieg, he's riding high. He's got his wave. In fact, I bet he's done quite well with the fundraising. My understanding, Wall Street taking a whole new second look
Well, that's what Bernie's saying.
at Pete Buttigieg. Here's what I would say. Bernie certainly had a big bump in fundraising in the month of January. He made his announcement, $25 million. He is flush with cash. Bernie can compete. But Buttigieg, I bet he's cashing checks. And Buttigieg got his bump, and he got his positive headlines. And Bernie Sanders, once again, with this early assignment of delegates that favors towards the national convention, that favors Buttigieg, once again steals any thunder and flies in the face of the discrepancies that we know, then don't assign the delegates. Do that properly, if nothing else. But once again, they give Buttigieg a rise and they diminish the performance because if ultimately it's 13-13, I'd have lived with that. But when you give one candidate a betterment, well, then he gets to go and claim his headline and Bernie gets screwed. That's my thought. A little more from Tom Perez. If we could, Fancy Brian, going to need your help with this. Perez still talking about the Iowa caucuses and the need for a surgical recanvass. Cut 61.
I have called for what I would describe as a surgical recanvass. So if there's a problem here or a problem there, I want to make sure that there's an opportunity to take a look because, again, accuracy counts.
One more from Tom Perez. If you would, Fancy, play cut 62.
We're now at 100%, and I care about making sure that if there are any problems, that people feel like they have an avenue to be heard.
Can you hear me? I'm not happy, Tom.
Nobody's happy right now. Not
Pete
with,
Buttigieg, he's ecstatic right now. He's doing fine. He's cashing checks. He got a big bump. And last night, there was a town hall, CNN. And last night, those two candidates did go head-to-head, or at least back-to-back. We saw Bernie Sanders go first. Last night, we broadcasted at 7. And then we had Pete Buttigieg. And tonight, Biden still gets center stage, but then he's going to be flanked by Warren and Sanders to Biden's right. And Sanders will be flanked to his right by Pete Buttigieg. Should make for interesting dynamics. Friday night fights, man. I can't believe you're not going to watch. 844-967-2789. Let's start with Susan from Virginia. Welcome to the show, Susan.
Hey, thank you. I got to get this in quick before I go over the mountain here. I'm really worried that the Democrats are going to make this all about who can beat Trump, because what happens if everyone's on that rug, who can beat Trump, and suddenly he's not going to be able to run for whatever reason. I can think about 6. But what if he's not there to be the Republican person? I know it would be a big deal, but honestly, where would the Democratic Party be at that point? Because they need to have a platform. I've heard a little bit of talk about it, but not a whole lot. And the second thing, because I know you're going to want to comment on that, but the second thing is, what did all that impeachment stuff cost us? I mean, did we pay like $50 million for the guy that was the constitutional lawyer? I mean, are those taxpayer dollars that Trump got for his whole legal team to represent him? And then the third thing, and I appreciate you letting me talk, infrastructure. We've got floods, fires, earthquakes. Everything is happening in this country, and no one's talking about all these people that suddenly are without homes. And there's thousands of them all over the entire country. And once I think someone puts them all on the map, we're going to be like, oh, crap, we need to be looking at that, and we need to pay for it now. And there won't be any money left because Trump spent it however he wanted.
Susan, I think you're missing the greater point. Everything's awesome here under Donald Trump. It's just too much winning. You're not used to all the winning. Certainly you make great points. We unfortunately cannot address them all.
Let me address the second one.
You go for it.
Regardless of the cost of the impeachment, it was necessary. It was Congress's obligation. I'm down with them going through this.
Costs less than we spent on Trump golfing this year, certainly.
No doubt about it. So, I mean, to me, that's worth it almost at any cost. And as far regarding whether or not Trump is there, it's the Republicans we're running against. Trump is the embodiment of the new Republican Party, but if he's not there, whoever is there, I think, has the opportunity to win.
Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates, airing our Friday grievances and yours at 844-967-2789.
Want to be more presidential? Tweet the Devil's Advocates at Devil Radio.
You know what? I'm happy.
You're wrong.
So, Dave, I hear you and your team at Community PC can really help a guy like me when I'm having a hard time keeping my computer up to date.
Oh yeah, Crudy. Community PC provides great service from trusted local technicians to give our clients peace of mind when it comes to their computers.
Will I wait on hold all day?
Our team can provide you with immediate trusted remote service. We also offer timely on-site service in Dane and Rock counties. Find us at commpc.com to learn more. Community PC. We know what makes computers happy.
Hello, Milwaukee. Tom Hartman here. Join me on Talk 101.7 FM every Monday through Friday for the Tom Hartman program. From impeachment updates to 2020 election coverage, my show will keep you up to date on everything you need to know. Tune in for the news of the day, share your opinion on the topics we discuss, and join the lively debate with me and my guests each weekday from 11 to 2 on the Tom Hartman program. Only on Talk 101.7 FM, Wisconsin's political talk network. Tag You're It.
You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at Talk1017FM.com.
From the Capitol in Madison, this is Wiz Politics Midday.
Good afternoon. I'm Pat Pobletti, and our report for Friday, February 7th is brought to you by Spectrum. The legislature's top Republicans dismissed Governor Tony Evers' call to pump $252 million in expected surplus into education, saying they're still focused on using the money for tax cuts. The competing calls set off a standoff on what to do with the projected surplus, with the legislative session quickly winding down and proposals already on the table to boost funding for farmers in rural Wisconsin, address water quality, and fund initiatives to fight homelessness. Evers' plan would take roughly half the expected surplus to pump in $130 million more into equalization aid, $110 million into special education and school-based mental health services, and $10 million to sparsity aid. The impact of the equalization aid would be twofold. One, the money would go to restore the state's funding of K-12 education to the 2/3 level it abandoned 17 years ago. Two, because Evers' proposal wouldn't change the revenue limits on school districts, it would drive down their reliance on property taxes. Additionally, Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald and Assembly Speaker Robin Vos quickly took to Twitter to knock Evers' plan, saying it shows Dems are only interested in growing the size of government. Voss said Evers didn't mention the special session when they met Wednesday. Said Voss, quote, "The governor may say he wants to work together, but it appears he's only interested in scoring political points." Fitzgerald, meanwhile, noted the boost that schools got in the most recent budget. That includes roughly $570 million in state aid and $96 million for special education. Said Fitzgerald, quote, "Senate Republicans have been focused since late last year on using our surplus for a tax cut for hard-working families, and the governor knows that. I don't see us budging off that position. It appears that the teachers' unions are the one calling the shots in the East Wing." Finally, Jason Church outraised rival Tom Tiffany in the most recent reporting period ahead of the 7th CD GOP primary later this month. But Tiffany finished the period with more in the bank for the final push, and he's raised more money overall, according to the filings with the FEC. Tiffany, a state senator from Minocqua, and Church, a former aide to U.S. Senator Ron Johnson and a retired Army captain, will square off in a February 18th primary for the northern Wisconsin seat. For WisPolitics Midday, sponsored by Spectrum, I'm Pat Pobletti.
This has been WisPolitics Midday. For more state government and political news, visit wispolitics.com.
Gingras, Thompson, and Wachs, the attorneys with more power, more fight, and the most heart, are here to serve you, Milwaukee. From personal injury to civil rights cases, we are determined to combat dishonesty and injustice. And our team brings the fight with integrity, passion, and dedication that never quits. Together, we right the wrong, and we are ready for battle. There are law firms, and then there is Gingras, Thompson, and Wachs. Find us online at gtwlawyers.com.
Charged, never convicted. Dom and Croat are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Friday edition. Still recounting in Iowa, and we're going to have another primary on Tuesday. Friday night fights, got a debate going on in New Hampshire. And Dom, we've been joined by a fine guest here in the Brady Street studios. He's our guy, Jim Santel. James Santel, a former U.S. attorney, a friend of ours. Jim, man, I don't know if we're going to see you so often anymore now that Trump's not being impeached.
It will be a sad day when I stop getting invitations from you. So
we'll never stop inviting you. I always appreciate it.
You know Trump's going to have ongoing legal trouble.
I suspect there will be. There are a few little pieces of litigation still hanging around out there, so we may be talking more and more down the road.
Well, here's the easy one to lead with today. The vengeance has begun. Donald Trump dropped the hammer. Lieutenant Colonel Vindeman, he's out, Jim. He got goose-stepped out of the White House today. Not in handcuffs. But apparently someone dropped the hammer. I bet you Trump did not have the courage to look him in the eye, but somebody told him he's fired. What's your reaction?
We've talked about this on many occasions previously, and that is this fundamental notion that you've got civil servants out there who are not politicians. They may be playing, regrettably, at this time and space in American history, they may be players and playing in the political America, but they're civil servants. And in particular, the folks who testified in front of the House Intelligence Committee, those people are committed. They've been there for decades. These are the kinds of folks we rely upon day to day. State Department, Defense Department, Justice Department, all sorts of other agencies to do their job well. When they are on the receiving end of this kind of employment action, they're removed principally because they are no longer in the good graces of the President of the United States of America. That not only is inappropriate, but frankly, it once again compromises our safety and security. A lieutenant colonel was someone who plainly knows his stuff. He understood what was going on. He was from that area, a huge amount of intelligence, and even his testimony, if you recall it well, was all about not wanting necessarily to engage in the politics of this, but to provide information and facts. That's what he did so expertly when he was in that position. We are all the lesser in his absence.
Jim, my understanding, Yovanovitch also has retired and, in fact, offered up an op-ed this week. Did you have the opportunity to read any of that?
I did. And
any impressions?
Right. Once again, I'm hearing the same person who wrote that op-ed as we heard from the testimony that she gave in front of Adam Schiff's committee. This is someone who understands her role not only in history, but her role contemporaneously in what she is doing. Plainly, she's got a future for her. She already has been affiliated with Georgetown University, a huge amount of education. This is someone who I hope in a future incarnation of some kind we will see back again, whether it's a future administration, some other role. This is someone, again, we should not show her the door. America should invite her back in some way to use her expertise well.
Well, Jim, I'd love to get your reaction. Mitt Romney, the vote, but also the repercussions of the vote. Let's start with the repercussions. The president clearly targeted him at the prayer breakfast yesterday, and then on that stem winder at the East Room. Mitt Romney will be persona non grata. The former presidential nominee 4 years prior is now, going to be heaved ho from the grand old party.
And according to Donald Trump Jr., should be drummed out of the party. Once again, the same kind of behavior. Regardless of what you think of Mitt Romney in terms of policy and practice, and certainly we can disagree in America, that's what this is all about. The reality is that this man took a step forward and engaged in an incredibly courageous act. And we all know that he is the first member of the Senate to vote against a president impeached and tried from his own party. His place in history is assured. Lots and lots of comparisons being made again to John McCain, someone who came forward at the time of the ACA vote. This is the kind of history that we should be thinking about today down the road. This is the kind of person that hopefully, as this goes forward, will inspire even more people to come forward and, as he said, vote their conscience. Mitt Romney, I think, has now, even perhaps more than his place as a formal presidential candidate, I think this is a man who will go down in history as being that person who stood up to this president and said no, and was willing to, and plainly is taking the lumps that he is getting from the White House and from other mainstream and mainline Republicans. The language is pretty nasty. He knew that. He went into this. He made that decision.
Thank God the man has vast personal wealth to shield him.
That's right. And probably, in fairness, also, he has got a pretty safe Senate seat. He's not up for a few more years. Unlike people like Doug Jones, a former U.S. attorney who I knew well in times past, you can make the argument that someone who, like Doug Jones, who is up for election this year in a plainly a red state, barely elected the last time around in a special election, he may have made even the greater profile and courage type move by voting in favor of conviction of the president.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That is James Santel, our friend and former U.S. attorney, joining us in the Brady Street studios. Jim, it's been some time, so I want to kind of go back and recap some of the legal arguments that were being made by the Trump attorneys. And the one that concerns me the most, because I think it kind of sets a precedent, because they voted for the man to be acquitted, right? So did they buy the argument? Of course, the argument being from Dershowitz, to paraphrase, if the president, thinks it's in the good for the nation for him to be reelected, and he does it for his reelection purposes, therefore it's good for America, he can do whatever he wants. And I paraphrase. I brought that up to Senator Johnson yesterday, and he said, oh, no, that was taken out of context. And I said, okay, well, I'm not very professorial, Senator. How did you take it? And he was not able to articulate for me what, if not the endorsement of a monarchy,
of motive.
What did you think he meant by that? Jim, what did Dershowitz mean by that? Am I taking it out of perspective?
I don't think you are.
Context.
You go back and you take a look, you listen to what Alan Dershowitz said. Obviously, this is someone who has been outside of the mainstream for a number of years, regrettably. He's a very bright guy. He's got a tremendous history, academic history behind him. But I think when you ask most people about legal theory, this kind of thing, the bases for removing a president, almost everyone would say he is not in the mainstream. He's way out there, not in left field. He's in the parking lot beyond left field. And so when you look at Alan Dershowitz's argument, which he did try to roll back in the days after he articulated,
yeah, but not in the Senate floor.
Not in the Senate floor, not at all. And it cannot be disputed. This is a man who was saying, fundamentally, when you boil it all down, that the only basis for removing a president is for crimes, and that plainly is not the law. That's plainly not what the founding fathers intended. That's not what the history of impeachment has been. And you can make the argument beyond that, that at least as to the first article of impeachment, abuse of power, there is a crime embedded in that. And so there are many, many problems with what Alan Dershowitz has said. Again, put him in the same category, if you will, of a Rudy Giuliani, someone who used to have great reputation in this country and unfortunately has thrown their lot in with this president, whose theories and whose fundamental concepts about constitutional government are simply wrong.
But the concern that I have is the precedent, Jim. Of course, the political decision by the Republicans not to remove him, even though some of them said, oh, yeah, he did things that were wrong. It was far from perfect. All those kinds of things, not to remove him. Is that a tacit endorsement of the monarchy Dershowitz proposal.
It certainly can be read that way, right? And we've got a number of different statements. You do have Lamar Alexander saying just that, Dom. You've got Alexander saying that, yes, indeed, no doubt, the president committed this crime. I do not find this event involved in Ukraine and the holding of the $393 million. I just don't find that rises to the level of an impeachable matter. I'm not going to remove him. There's a certain amount of at least intellectual honesty to that, even if we don't buy into that theory.
Don't give the man too much credit. Alexander is also supporting Trump's reelection.
Well, there's no doubt about it, right? Exactly. But the precedent issue is no small thing. And as we look forward, perhaps down the road to another impeachment, perhaps next century when none of us will be around here anymore, this is the kind of thing you look back on. And it does set a terrible precedent. It's simply premised upon an inaccurate and misleading sense of what the law
next
is all about.
century, hell, man.
yourself, Jim.
The next impeachment could be in another 2 months.
There certainly is. You're talking to someone who's been advocating for the impeachment of this president on other grounds for a whopping 295 days since the time the Mueller report was issued. And yes, I come in with that math every time.
Jim, another question or concern that I have. The presentation of the Republicans, at least in the impeachment trial, well, you got to go to court. Yeah, I mean, your subpoenas are invalid because we said they were, and so you got to go to court to do that, of course. They went to court once, and it's still not been decided, April, regarding McGahn. So they went to court once. So the concern obviously is, well, hell, the executive branch, the president, well, his team will just sandbag this the whole time and drag it out through the courts and delay. And then they're also in court with regards to Trump's taxes, saying, oh, no, you don't get these taxes. You don't like it. You got to impeach.
Right. And so it depends upon what forum you are in, right? And that's the irony, which I think Adam Schiff also noted in his closing arguments, that when you go into the courts, the argument is, no, go back to Congress. That's your remedy, not enforcement of subpoenas. Let's go back to fundamental notions here once again. The reason why this is so important is that the president's basically saying that when you get a subpoena, you don't even have to show up. We're not even getting to the point of this theory of executive privilege, which could be litigated. Again, we've talked about this before. Not quite as broad as people think it is, but this fundamental notion that if you get a subpoena, you do not even have to show up. That's really dangerous to our society. Once you're there, you can raise privilege related to your attorney-client privilege. Maybe we argue about whether there's executive privilege, other things, even marital privilege, all kinds of things could come up. But that notion that you simply say no from the get-go and you don't even pursue those fundamental notions about what the theory is that prevents you from testifying, that's the problem here. And that's why I think that second article of impeachment, abuse of Congress, or rather obstruction of Congress, is valid. And again, we also know, of course, these things are still pending in front of the United States Supreme Court. At least 3 cases involving Don McGahn. We've got taxes, other matters about the extent to which the executive branch can say no.
Now, can those cases, can they refer back to the impeachment trial of the president's other attorneys that contradict their position in the federal court?
Well, you certainly can. I mean, judges, appellate judges of every kind will look at lawyers and say, oh, Mr. Santel, other attorneys, I see that in a prior proceeding, whether it's, again, I'm not appearing in front of the United States Congress, but the government, you have taken this position. It is fair game to articulate those kinds of hypocritical and inconsistent positions. Don't anticipate that the Supreme Court will simply look at this and say, well, we're not going to talk about that history. Judges all the time raise contemporary issues. They will sometimes say, on the front page of the New York Times, I see this reported. Tell me what your theory is about this. Again, it may not be a part of the record, but there's no doubt that judges can and will look back to previous statements of attorneys and call them to account for them.
Jim, we had one of the jurors, if you will, he stood right where you're standing yesterday. U.S. Senator Ron Johnson was in studio, and we asked him, why no witnesses? How do you justify that? Even John Bolton, come on, he wanted to testify. How do you justify that? And effectively, his only response, and I won't call it plausible, was, oh, that would have taken months.
Right.
Witnesses would have taken a really long time, and, we're busy.
And perhaps, in many cases around the country where we've got civil cases pending, sometimes even criminal cases, that might be the case. We're not talking about those garden variety cases. We're talking about a trial of the president from the United States Senate. Plainly, the Supreme Court can and does act quickly when it needs to, both in terms of Richard Nixon, the election of 2000, those kinds of things. They can turn things around very, very quickly. So to the extent that the government needs to move when it should move in the national interest, beyond the little things that you and I might be involved in, they can do that.
Jim, obviously, you and I would probably agree the Congress did not have to wait for the courts. But should the House have waited for the courts? If the courts are capable of moving with this sort of alacrity, should they have waited?
Well, and the answer is, once again, as you indicated before, the Don McGahn matter has been pending for an awfully long time. And it's been going up there. My own view is that you make the good faith effort, which they plainly did, and then at some point you make the decision to go ahead because, again, the fundamental notion here is that the United States security is at risk. That's what count one is all about, and you make that judgment call. I think it's overstating it wildly to indicate that, gosh, you should have pursued this other judicial remedy, especially, as you said before, when in that judicial remedy, the same people that you're fighting against are telling you, no, go back to Capitol Hill and impeach rather than to get enforcement of these subpoenas. It is circuitous, and it's just plain crazy.
Well, I see a real consistency, actually, Jim. Ends justify the means.
Right.
And
Yeah,
by any
well,
means necessary. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. We got a fine guest in studio. He is former U.S. Attorney James Santel. Most importantly, our friend, hopefully current friend. Come back with us.
Didn't do it. Lawyer f***ed me.
I'm not an expert on the facts yet. I'm getting there.
Milwaukee is about to get greener this winter with the debut of the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo presented by the Shepherd Express on February 8, 2020 at the Wisconsin Center. It features exhibitors, speakers, and an estimated 2,000 plus attendees. This business-to-business and business-to-consumer one-day expo will feature over 100 exhibitors covering all angles of the industry. During the event, guests will have a chance to sample and purchase product, attend presentation from leading experts in the cannabis, CBD, and hemp industry, chat with thousands of cannabis enthusiasts, and network. Guests must be 18 or older to attend the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo. A limited number of tickets are available for this event. Advance tickets are $20 through February 7th. Tickets will be available at the door for $28 while supplies last. For more information or to buy tickets, visit wicannabisexpo.com, wicannabisexpo.com.
The following is a public service message from Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
In 2020, Wisconsin has 4 statewide elections. Make sure you are registered to vote. Republicans are doing everything they can to make it more difficult for citizens to cast their ballot. Americans have fought and died for the right to vote. The next election is the spring primary on February 18th. Check your registration at myvote.wi.gov.
More power, more fight, the most heart. Gingras, Thompson & Walks is more than a law firm. We're family. We believe in doing our best to help people in need and right the wrong that's occurred. For more than 35 years, we've helped thousands of clients across the state of Wisconsin get the justice they deserve. Our proven track record of success isn't based solely on our knowledge of the judicial system. Rather, we make it our priority to get to know our clients and their cases so we can best represent them. Gingras, Thompson & Walks. Find us online at gtwlawyers.com.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. If you miss any of this fine programming, why would you? You can go back and relive all the highlights at domandcroot.com. You can download and listen to podcasts and interviews.
You know, I'm going to listen to the podcast of Ron Johnson on my drive back to Madison tonight because, you know, there are a few things I'd like to review for the record. We got a fine guest in studio. He is James Santel, former U.S. Attorney. And Jim, I got to tell you, Ron Johnson, I asked him, what about John Bolton? Why no John Bolton? And as Tammy Baldwin had pointed out, John Bolton directly contradicts Ron Johnson. Bolton claims Mulvaney was in the room, Pompeo was in the room, Trump was in the room, Johnson was in the room, and Bolton was in the room. And Bolton, according to reporting we've seen of a manuscript that's going to publish apparently March 17th, Bolton claims that Trump at that time, way back in May, was already directing the whole debate entirely predicated on the investigation of the Bidens.
Right. And it puts in historical perspective the July 26th phone call, right? Because we think that that's the first time that's articulated. Plainly, we know now many, many months before that this conversation's been happening. That particular meeting, and we'll be interested to read as John Bolton describes it in his forthcoming book, it does change things once again. It plainly indicates that we've got a whole history here.
And not only that, but it also changed the timeline of Ron Johnson's subsequent statements, like the one he made to the Wall Street Journal in October after appearing on this show. And then the Friday of that week, it was reported the Sondland conversation. Sondland effectively said quid pro quo. Johnson said he went to the president and said, was there a quid pro quo? And according to Ron Johnson, the president said, who effing told you that? No quid pro quo, right?
It's hugely problematic, and you know what?
But if Johnson was in the room when he knew that Trump was directing the quid pro quo all the way back to May, whether he saw it directly and perceived it as a quid pro quo in real time, I mean, over the course of months, this had to settle in. Even Ron Johnson would get it given months to consider
It is difficult to believe that anyone, again, I recognize the United States senators are in the White House on a routine basis, but they're not there every day, every hour. And so a meeting of this magnitude with these people involved, it is difficult to think, as you just indicated, Mike, that as this settles in and you suddenly realize, oh my goodness, this is even more significant than I realized at the time, you would think back on that and you would think, gosh, I was there quite literally in the room, to use the Hamilton reference these days. I've got some insight into all this. The other piece of this, of course, is it underscores the craziness of this proceeding, right? Which is you've got Ron Johnson, who among many others is a fact witness in a real world, like Bolton, like all the others, like Mick Mulvaney. That would be the kind of person you would call to testify about exactly what that conversation was all about. We've got a fact witness who's also a United States senator, who's also a member of the jury, who's also overruling a Supreme Court justice who is presiding over these matters. The extent to which this was a trial in any way that we can identify it outside of it with the United States Senate, it simply is not there.
Well, I will readily agree. I didn't have Ron Johnson, under oath yesterday, but I did also find it quite interesting. Lev Parnas, the other guy that kind of sprung up post-impeachment House inquiry, and Lev says he's got lots of incriminating information on different parties, including Ron Johnson. So I asked Ron, I hit him between the eyes yesterday. I said, are we going to see pictures of you and Lev Parnas? Do you know him? He claimed, well, pictures, I don't know. Take lots of pictures. I think you'd remember Lev Parnas at this late hour. Even Devin Nunes has, found the memories of Lev Parnas. But what if Lev Parnas and John Bolton turn around and point at these senior Trump advisors and perhaps even Ron Johnson and implicate them all post-impeachment? I mean, history is not going to judge any of these men well.
History is not going to judge them well. And, recognize, too, that this proceeding that we've just gone through in America is about the President of the United States of America. There are other people out there who may have some exposure, criminal, certainly political. And we know well that the House is going to continue to look at all this. The Senate may not be issuing those subpoenas. This is not done for those people who are surrounding the president, including Rudy Giuliani, including all these other folks, including those who are there in the meeting room. And so this notion that somehow we're putting the entire Ukrainian matter to rest, that also is simply wrong. And I'd be mighty concerned if I were the lawyer for any of these folks about saying to them, listen, the president's acquittal now means that you're scot-free also. Just the contrary.
Jim, I'm keeping an eye on the clock. Are we chasing you out, or you got a few
I would be
time
pleased
across
to
the
stay
top
with
of the
you.
hour?
Absolutely.
Excellent, because we've got callers holding, and we'd like you to take a few calls.
Let's do
but
that.
Not until after 4 o'clock. Dom, you take a Give you one or two.
Yeah, all
buddy.
right. In the last 3 minutes. Thanks, Mike. Jim, what happens now? I mean, can the committees now call Lev Parnas, call John Bolton, subpoena them? And I'm really unclear. I mean, Bolton said, no, I'm going to sue you. But they said, hey, I'll come to the Senate. And is he not going to now? How do you see the continued investigation playing out?
Sure, and as I indicated, and I'll say it in response to your more explicit question here, all that can happen and is going to happen. We already have Christopher Murphy from Connecticut asking the GAO to review again whether, not only on its report finding that the Ukrainian matter was illegal, done improperly, but he's now asking whether they misused calculation, or rather classification powers in refusing to turn over documents. So that's the next issue that's out there. We plainly have other House folks who are interested in getting John Bolton in. Again, this is by no means done. All of this can, in fact, be the focus, especially of a House controlled by the Democrats. All of that is nowhere near finished. And I would anticipate that even though, again, the narrow issue, the significant issue, but the narrow issue of the president's culpability may be resolved, for many other people, this is still a very serious issue.
Jim, we're almost out of time. Vengeance has begun raining down. We talked about Lieutenant Colonel Vindeman being fired from the White House. So was his twin brother, just for good measure.
Can't have one Vindeman take them both out.
So when we come back, Jim, and I know we'll hold you over the top, I want to talk about the fact Ron Johnson has expressed, along with his colleague, Chuck Grassley, a willingness and a desire to go investigate the Bidens. I mean, that was the whole point of this quid pro quo in the first place. This impeachment is all about Donald Trump's desire to go investigate the Bidens so he can smear the Bidens, so he can take a piece out of his political opponent's ass. And Ron Johnson apparently is willing to be his tool in this regard. You know, it took the last of my strength not to say, have you no decency, sir, to Ron Johnson. I figure I'd leave Dom holding the bag, though, and that wouldn't quite be fair. Come back with us, more Devil's Advocates. We will not leave you holding the bag or the phone lines. Jim Santel's going to stick around. We're going to allow him to take some of your questions at 844-967-2789. And I want to get your comments, Jim. The Joe McCarthyism expressed and displayed by our buddy Ron Johnson. Come back with us, more Devil's Advocates.
If you missed something on the Devil's Advocates, don't worry. After you get over your shame, you can check out domandcroot.com. Podcasts and interviews updated daily.
So many people are walking around now without legs and without arms. Does that make sense?
How did Scott Walker win 3 governor's races in Wisconsin? How did Donald Trump win Wisconsin, carry the presidency despite losing the primary to Ted Cruz? Right-wing talk radio. 81 stations spewing 235 hours a day of variety hate across the Badger State. You cannot win elections in Wisconsin by ceding the airwaves to Republicans, especially in Milwaukee and the Wow counties. The answer, we built a Wisconsin political talk network, 2 Metro FM stations in Milwaukee and Madison, rural AM stations in Waukesha and Columbus, covering 2.5 million Wisconsinites with our message. I used my own savings, my credit, pledged my home, sold my business. I'm all in. Are you? Can you stand with us now? I have built a messaging tool. We have assembled a great team, but changing outcomes requires rapid promotion and costs money. Can you help me? Can you buy ads, promote your campaign, or give a direct donation?
If you can help us, go to GoFundMe.com and search Resistance Radio Wisconsin. You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at Talk1017FM.com.
Vindeman fired. Crash update. I'm Mike Moss. Defense Secretary Mark Esper assured today that Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindeman, who angered the president when he testified before the impeachment investigation, would not be a victim of retribution.
We protect all of our persons, service members from retribution or anything.
Hours later, a security detail had escorted Vindeman from the White House along with his twin brother, who was also fired. Vindeman's testimony embittered Trump.
I was concerned by the call. What I heard was inappropriate. and I reported my concerns to Mr. Eisenberg. It is improper for the President of the United States to demand a foreign government investigate a U.S. citizen and a political opponent.
More from White House correspondent Caitlin Collins.
The president has continued to complain about Vindeman ever since he testified, saying that call that he was also on July 25th was inappropriate, that it undermined national security. The president has not only mocked what he said, he mocked him for wearing his uniform to come and testify there on Capitol Hill.
Investigators say they don't think engine failure was to blame for the helicopter crash killing Kobe Bryant and 8 others. More from correspondent Nick Watt.
The helicopter was not equipped with a flight data recorder or cockpit voice recorder, so they are hoping to rely on the pilot's iPad, which was loaded with a flight app. They have still not said that they have confirmed that the iPad they found in the wreckage belongs to the pilot. They haven't examined that yet. They will try to, as they say, get inside his head to figure out what decisions he made and why he made them.
Bryant's widow today announced a celebration of life event to be held at Staples Center February 24th. The Federal Reserve spooked Wall Street today with a warning that the coronavirus could have an impact on the U.S. economy and will certainly hurt Chinese economic growth. On Wall Street, the Dow finished down 277. I'm Mike Moss.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Hello, Milwaukee. Tom Hartman here. Join me on Talk 101.7 FM every Monday through Friday for the Tom Hartman program. From impeachment updates to 2020 election coverage, my show will keep you up to date on everything you need to know. Tune in for the news of the day, share your opinion on the topics we discuss, and join the lively debate with me and my guests each weekday from 11 to 2 on the Tom Hartman program. Only on Talk 101.7 FM, Wisconsin's political talk network. Tag You're It.
There are 2 new problems associated with the coronavirus: price gouging and stockpiling. Correspondent Jim Roop reports the hoarding of and profiteering in protective supplies is on the rise.
The price gouging of masks and other personal protective supplies is bad enough, says the WHO's Dr. Mike Ryan.
We've seen price increases of up to 100 times.
But the stockpiling is causing a shortage of such supplies for frontline healthcare workers.
We need to start looking at what is the minimum amount of supply that needs to be protected and directed.
He says governments may have to get involved to ensure the availability of protective supplies for healthcare workers.
The Justice Department reportedly has dropped its antitrust lawsuit filed against 4 automakers. Automakers sided with the state of California in a dispute over climate-warming vehicle pollution. Justice Department says the makers, Ford, VW, Honda, and BMW, after an investigation, had violated no laws. I'm Mike Moore.
Thanks to you, our listeners, Wisconsin's political talk network continues to grow. Now, radio listeners in the Milwaukee area can hear WRRD on the FM dial at 101.7 FM 24 hours a day. Tune in when you're in the car, at home, or at work, because politics matters at Talk 101.7 FM.
Milwaukee is a great city with a great history and great architecture. You can take in Milwaukee's history and architecture while you partake in the delicious Wisconsin craft beer at Regano's Roman Coin on historic Brady Street. The Roman Coin was originally a Pabst Tight House built by Frederick Pabst in 1890 to sell Pabst beer. It was even designed by the same architect who designed the Pabst Theater. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's historic, pet-friendly, cash-only, order-in classic corner tavern.
For 101.7 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald is being criticized for simultaneously supporting justice reform on the federal level and a tough-on-crime bill here in Wisconsin. The federal law is called the First Step Act and resulted in more than 500 inmates being released early, allowed some offenders to avoid mandatory minimum sentences, and provided drug treatment for more inmates. At the same time that Fitzgerald says he backs that law because it was signed by Donald Trump, here at home he is rushing through legislation that would toughen penalties and send more offenders to prison for longer periods. Those tougher penalties would cost taxpayers more than $200 million over 2 years, plus another $700 million for 2 new prisons. You're listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, and we've got the same fine guest. He's stuck around. We appreciate him doing so. He is James Santel, former U.S. attorney and our good friend. And Jim, it appears Trump's purge has begun. Lieutenant Colonel Vindeman has been walked out of the White House, apparently fired today. They fired his twin brother, just for good measure.
Get rid of the whole Vindeman family.
Take out the whole family. Jim talked about the fact Ron Johnson and Chuck Grassley are apparently going on a partisan witch hunt of their own now, and they're going to investigate Hunter Biden. Want to get your reaction, sir?
Right, and you know, this is what we do now, not just in terms of in investigating investigations, but these kinds of responses. You know, it's very clear during the course of the presentation before the Intelligence Committee in front of Adam Schiff and others that yes, you've got figures who are identified, namely Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, whose names are, I will use a small r, relevant to the investigation, but they're not material, they're not significant when it comes to anything related to the actual engagement with Ukraine. Now, plainly this investigation is going to be, if it is pursued, and presumably it is going to get into that. But the question is, you know, what is there to find out that is not already basically known, that's a part of the record in this matter? And it does harken back, I think, to the things that were said about Biden, both Bidens, Hunter and Joe, during the course of the impeachment proceedings. And you know, what is the nature of the crime, the event that happened? You always have to have some predicate to investigate something within the Department of Justice, even the DA's office. What is the issue here? Is it purely political, or is there something more that you are identifying? Is there a financial issue? Is there a corruption issue? Is there some sort of foreign engagement issue, a registration issue?
That just looks bad to me.
What is it? And that's my point in the end. You know, what is the material focus of this, aside from saying, okay, it is now payback time, which I think is the predicate of your question.
Jim, my understanding of some reporting I've read recently, Bill Barr has demanded that before any investigations of any presidential campaign, one must assume that includes Mr. Trump's campaign, before any investigations may be commenced, he's got to personally sign off on them as the Attorney General of the United States. How unusual is that directive?
It is, the timing of it, I think, is a little bit of concern, although the substance of it is not. So that's exactly right. So he has issued a memorandum, obviously, to all U.S. attorneys, all Department of Justice components. Basically says, before you initiate investigation, this includes the FBI as well, before you open the file on any investigation, I need to know about it. Now, is that on its face problematic? No, and I say that just because in past years, plainly previous U.S. attorneys general have said the same thing. And you think back to, for example, not too far from Milwaukee, when my former colleague in the U.S. attorney's office in Chicago was investigating Rod Blagojevich for selling off the Senate seat from Barack Obama. He had as U.S. attorney there, had a decision to make about whether or not to go public with it, because you're concerned concerned about the impact on the investigation. So the notion here is still the same thing. You don't want to have an impact by virtue of the investigation itself on the political process. On the other hand, again, the timing of this and the articulation of the memorandum by the Attorney General in the wake of what is going on right now certainly indicate, this is the kind of thing that everybody should be attentive to always. And then you add to it, of course, that the Attorney General, through John Durham, the U.S. Attorney in the New England, is also still pursuing the investigation that about the initiation of Russia itself. And so all of this does sort of look like, again, we're coming back in the wake of the impeachment, and we're doing things that again, to some extent are not inappropriate, but are reactive to a very political situation. The upshot is that you should always have prosecutors who are sensitive to the impact of investigations and certainly prosecutions. That's not a new concept. The timing of this perhaps does raise some eyebrows.
The timing, but I'm concerned about the man himself. I mean, this is a guy that lied about the content of the Mueller report. He held onto that thing to give, the president a chance to spin the story the way he wants it. Now, he's going to be in charge of deciding whether or not Trump gets investigated for the next damn election interference he's going to be doing? Do you have any faith in his decision making?
That's the larger concern. The policy itself, the practice itself may not be problematic. It's the people who are implementing it, right?
Yes, that's my concern. Right? It's the guy.
And we also recall, we know well that yesterday during the course of the president's East Room harangue, if you will, the Attorney General was there. And that's not inappropriate necessarily, but you look at the Attorney General's demeanor, he was also laughing. And he was also plenty supporting these kinds of things that the president was saying about elected officials, about private individuals, about other civil servants. That's not the role of...
He's part of the team, and if he gets a heads up that they're onto something, he can spill the beans over to the to his buddies in the executive branch, say, hey guys, you're going to have to tone it down. I'm getting some feedback over here.
And that concern, it goes back to the things that happened at the time of the Mueller report, and even before that time, when this Attorney General, taking up a song, if you will, from the President of the United States of America, said, members of the public know that the Mueller report says nothing there with respect to Russia, no obstruction, no conspiracy, nothing at all. And of course, the report says just the opposite. So I think there's a good reason to be very skeptical about the Attorney General's
he has no
legitimacy.
Credibility.
I think that's very much the case. Again, you don't have to convince me that we've got that problem in his voicing past positions on these things. Yeah.
Okay, back on the trail of vengeance. According to an exclusive report from Fox News, Rep. Devin Nunes is threatening to take action against Intelligence Community Inspector General Michael Atkinson over his handling of the whistleblower complaint, giving him until February 14th to comply with congressional requests for documents. I will be referring this matter for investigation by the Department of Justice if you once again refuse to comply. Will we see retribution coming from all different branches of the government?
That reporting certainly indicates that we're firing on all cylinders, right?
I mean,
and that's
Nunes
the problem,
was singled out
right?
as a supporter by Trump from the East Room yesterday. I mean, he was like the plumber, the sewer guy, the house painter, if you will.
And we know also from reporting those from the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, and Nunes is also, again, he's a fact witness, right? He was there. We're getting telephone toll records indicating that he is having those same kinds of conversations. So the irony of this, again, that it's this very fellow who himself is involved in these matters is now calling on an investigation. It is more than amazing. It is very, very troubling, and it's the kind of thing that we should expect more of when it comes to our public officials.
And I'm down for the transparency, but in some ways I'm thinking to myself, to Horowitz or everybody else who's on the receiving end of any letter or any subpoena, circular file. You guys already set the precedent as far as how's this thing going to go. Go pound sand.
Right. And that's the larger concern. That, again, the good news here, of course, is that the House is still in control by the Democrats and by the Adam Schiffs and the Nancy Pelosi's of the world. But you're going inside the executive branch, ordering these investigations, and those kinds of things, while they're subject to oversight by the House, cannot be stopped necessarily by the House itself.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Our friend Jim Santel, former U.S. Attorney.
We're both so eager to ask you questions, Jim.
And you can join us as well on the phones at 844-967-2789. Jim, some of the issues still outstanding on Trump. Where do we stand? The SDNY. We have all these other investigations going on. Of course, Deutsche Bank. I mean, what's the update on the other stuff?
Sure. Lots of updates here. Again, as we mentioned before, we've got Supreme Court cases pending. Those are before John Roberts and the other members of the Supreme Court. So again, I'm very hopeful that
that'll be the taxes on March 31st.
Exactly right. That's taxes. That's also Don McGahn. It's about this general notion the president can say no when it comes to properly issued subpoenas and requests for production of documents and those kinds of things. So, they're all brought together, all three of those, because it identifies that issue. It goes to executive privilege, whether that really exists and what the extent of it is. So that's coming out. We recognize
John Bolton's book. Are we going to see publication of the book? Do you think they can't stop the publication of a book? Can they?
I was about to say I can't imagine, but in America today, I think the answer is no. That the New York Times versus Sullivan, all those kinds of cases involving First Amendment and prohibitions, prophylactically preventing the release of information. If courts in America start doing that, granting motions to stop the production of documents, then we are talking Fahrenheit 451, right? And so very, very hopeful that both in the Supreme Court issues, certainly any attempt to try to stop that document from coming out and being able to go to Barnes & Noble and purchase it, I do think that there's no court that's going to stop that. Then beyond that, more generally, of course, we still have Cy Vance out there, who is, of course,
the state of New York.
Exactly, right? And he is looking at the financial issues and a lot of things related to the president's. And it's also connected to the taxes because they relate back to finances. We've got the New York Attorney General, likewise, looking at that whole panoply of things out there. And as we've talked before, none of that is underneath the rubric of a federal system, of an Attorney General who can start or stop, as we talked before, an investigation. Those can go forward. Nothing that says that those other law enforcement authorities cannot charge a sitting president. That memo we've talked about before, that applies only to the federal government. 2020, again, could be a very interesting year in terms of all these other ancillary things that are still out there, still pending.
Well, we do political talk radio. We're hoping for an interesting year. We'll make it interesting. James Santel, former U.S. Attorney, you always make it interesting. Thank you for coming in today and helping to inform our
audience.
Always
a pleasure. Look for more conversation down the road.
Thanks, Jim.
I suspect we will keep your number close and dear. Our good friend James Santel, thank you very much. Come back with us. Devil's Advocates, it's Friday. We are grievances. Phone lines open for you. 844-967-2789.
Powers that you wouldn't believe. Good morning. He's not smiling. He used to smile. Before I ran, he was smiling. Now he's not smiling.
Milwaukee is about to get greener this winter with the debut of the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo presented by the Shepherd Express on February 8, 2020 at the Wisconsin Center. It features exhibitors, speakers, and an estimated 2,000 plus attendees. This business-to-business and business-to-consumer one-day expo will feature over 100 exhibitors covering all angles of the industry. During the event, guests will have a chance to sample and purchase product, attend presentations from leading experts in the cannabis, CBD, and hemp industry, chat with thousands of cannabis enthusiasts, and network. Guests must be 18 or older to attend the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo. A limited number of tickets are available for this event. Advance tickets are $20 through February 7th. Tickets will be available at the door for $28 while supplies last. For more information or to buy tickets, visit wicannabisexpo.com, wicannabisexpo.com.
More power, more fight, the most heart. Gingras, Thompson & Walks is more than a law firm. We're family. We believe in doing our best to help people in need and right the wrong that's occurred. For more than 35 years, we've helped thousands of clients across the state of Wisconsin get the justice they deserve. Our proven track record of success isn't based solely on our knowledge of the judicial system. Rather, we make it our priority to get to know our clients and their cases so we can best represent them. Gingras, Thompson & Walks. Find us online at gtwlawyers.com.
Milwaukee, tune in from 11 to 2 on Talk 101.7 FM for the Thom Hartmann Program. Join the show's conversation because our democracy is not a spectator sport. Listen live Monday through Friday right here on Talk 101.7 FM, Wisconsin's political talk network.
Tune in Saturday morning for Development Matters with me, Ken Harwood, for an honest discussion about economic development right here in Wisconsin. From Lambeau Field to electric cabs, we're talking about real solutions for real problems right here in Wisconsin.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy Friday to us all. You can join us on the phones to air your grievances at 844-967-2789.
Dominic Rocker, Joe Walsh. Was it that Joe Walsh or that talk show host guy from Chicago?
That was your buddy.
Joe Walsh. I know. I appeared on a Fox News panel. Just Joe Walsh and I made him stutter. Clearly, he was not presidential material, Dom.
He dropped out.
Today, he dropped out.
There will be no President Joe Walsh.
I thought the likelihood he would become president was about the same as Marianne Williamson.
Well, the Eagles are going to tour this year, so that's good.
DominicTheHill.com. Thank you, Jim Santel, our fine guest. Always a great one. And you can call us if you have questions. We'll play lawyers on the radio. I've watched many Perry Masons.
Yeah, I've seen Columbo.
844-967-2789. We'll get to the phones in just a minute. Plan to pro-Biden, Biden's plural, sparks GOP divisions. A pledge to investigate the Bidens in Ukraine once impeachment trial wraps is sparking divisions among Senate Republicans. Struggling with the reading, apparently, Dom. I need your cheaters. President Trump and his top allies have homed in on former Vice President Joe Biden's push to oust a top Ukrainian prosecutor and Hunter Biden's work for Burisma Holdings, a Ukrainian gas company, as they sought to counter-program on the sidelines of the months-long impeachment drama. Now with the trial in the rearview mirror, that chatter is set to move to center stage as Republicans strategize over their next steps. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham, a vocal ally of Trump's, is pledging oversight. Other GOP senators are warning that it's time for the Senate to move on after the weeks-long divisive fight that left scars on the chamber's normally clubby atmosphere. Here's a quote, Dom. Senator John Thune from South Dakota. I know there's been some discussion about the Judiciary Committee taking a look at that. I think what I would like to see happen around here is return to normalcy. Well, that ain't going to happen not while Donald Trump's the president. People just kind of put their spears down and let's get back to work and focus on, I think, what most people in this country think we ought to be doing. Senator Bill Cassidy said Graham might feel obliged as the Judiciary Committee chairman to investigate the Bidens in Ukraine, but added he thought the Senate's focus should be on other priorities. He said people, when he goes home, are not talking about impeachment or the Bidens. I don't even know if the Democrats are talking about the Bidens. Are they, Don?
Not a whole lot.
They're talking about the cost of their insulin. They're talking about the fact that the roads need to be built. That's what they're concerned about. I think we need to speak to the American people's concerns. John Cornyn, a member of Graham's committee, asked if he had any interest in investigating the Bidens, said, I think an election is the best way to handle that. But Graham isn't the only Republican, Dom, who's interested in digging into Hunter Biden in Ukraine. We know that. We had one of them on our fine show yesterday.
30 minutes after the impeachment trial wrapped up this week, Senators Grassley and Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, the chairman of the Finance and Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committees, respectively, announced they were asking for details of any travel Hunter Biden took with a protective detail when his father was vice president.
Now, Ron claimed yesterday the timing just incidental. I said, you know what happened an hour after the impeachment vote wrapped, Ron? The announcement of your investigation, the partisan investigation of the Bidens? Oh, no, That was just coincidental, Tom.
I wonder if the Bidens were charging that protective detail $650 a night in their hotel rooms. Oh, wait, that's Trump. I continue from the Hill. The two chairmen, sometimes in conjunction with Graham, have been sending letters to a slew of departments for months asking for details on Ukraine, Burisma Holdings, Hunter Biden, and their respective associates. The Treasury Department is handing over documents to Grassley and Johnson as part of their probe.
But not Trump. A
spokesman for Ron Wyden said on Thursday. A GOP aide noted that they've also been told the State Department and National Archives, who also received letters, have documents related to their requests and are expected to hand them over. But it's Graham that's stolen the spotlight after talking daily during the impeachment trial about the need to look into the Bidens. Quote, when this is over, the Congress will do it. If we can't have an outside entity do it, I don't want it to be Lindsey Graham because it will be hard for me. But if I have to, I will do it, Graham said late last month during one of the many gaggles and press conferences during the impeachment. He added during an interview with Fox News on Thursday that the Bidens need to be looked at for what they did. There was an obvious conflict of interest. Hopefully, the Senate will perform that oversight. Trump and his GOP allies have sought to tie Biden's push to 2016 dismissal of Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin to Hunter Biden's business interests. We talked about that yesterday.
And we have a better article to explain that, but let's get back to the phones first. Tony from Portland. Welcome, sir. What do you got for us?
Oh, I am so sick and tired of the Mitt Romney. Oh, my God, I'm so sick and tired of that dude. Look, he talked about Jesus and how he just had to vote his conscience. Where was his conscience when there was concentration camps at the border? Where is his conscience when food stamps are getting erased from people? Where is his conscience when people were getting food or their food taken away from schools? Where's Betsy DeVos's conscience? Where was his conscience with all of this time that all of this crap is going on? I don't mean to go full Betsy on you guys.
Hey, we love Betsy. That's
well,
okay.
Tony, one thing I would point out, Romney has only been a U.S. Senator since 2018. He won in the midterm elections. He was not there for the first 2 years of the Trumpster fire.
But he was also a presidential candidate, and he wasn't promoting Jesus's preachings the entire time he was a presidential candidate. And, you know, I mean,
come on, man. He's a Mormon. He's talking about Joe Smith and magic underwear.
What? I learned more about the Mormons from South Park than I ever did in school.
Did you ever see the Book of Mormon?
I have not.
I saw it on the stage.
Yeah,
it was
entertaining?
quite good.
Yeah. Do you think they have a Book of Muhammad that would go over well?
Probably less so.
Yeah. Funny how that works out.
Are we, man? Now you sound like Mitt Romney on September 11th. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, more of your phone calls. 844-967-2789.
If politics is boring, you're doing it wrong. Check out more at domandcroot.com.
This is Ben Wickler, chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. It's February, it is cold outside, but the heat of the general election is already raging through our state. We know that Trump is targeting Wisconsin because if he loses here, he loses the election. He's opening offices, he's got dozens of staff on the ground, he is flooding our social media streams with ads targeting voters in every corner of the state. But we are fighting back. We might not have a nominee yet, we might not have a nominee for months, but through the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, we are hitting the streets, talking to voters where they live through our neighborhood action teams and county parties in every corner of Wisconsin. Tomorrow, February 8th, we'll be knocking on doors in more than 100 communities across the state. You can find a map and join a local canvas at wisdems.org/victory. That's wisdems.org/victory. I will be knocking doors in multiple places. Your friends will be knocking doors. Everybody's knocking doors. Join the movement. Let's lay the groundwork to win the Supreme Court race against Dan Kelly this spring and to stop Trump this fall.
You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
Dom, the Devil's Advocates are going on an adventure.
Join Crute and I for our inaugural 420 celebration from our friends at Expedia Cruise Ship Centers of Madison. Our political party runs for 7 nights over the 420 holiday in sunny and cannabis-legal California. The Hilton La Jolla Torrey Pines is near the beach, boasting a world-class golf course, and is just a few minutes drive from downtown San Diego.
Expedia prices, local service. Visit them on Madison's west side off Mineral Point Road or Google Expedia Cruise Ship Centers Madison.
I am Brett Blummy. I am a proud member of Milwaukee's community. This is where I will always be committed. I am asking for your vote because a better judge means better justice.
Authorized and paid for by Brett Blummy for Judge, Brett Timmerman, Treasurer.
Milwaukee is about to get greener this winter with the debut of the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo presented by the Shepherd Express on February 8, 2020 at the Wisconsin Center. It features exhibitors, speakers, and an estimated 2,000 plus attendees. This business-to-business and business-to-consumer one-day expo will feature over 100 exhibitors covering all angles of the industry. During the event, guests will have a chance to sample and purchase product, attend presentation from leading experts in the cannabis, CBD, and hemp industry, chat with thousands of cannabis enthusiasts, and network. Guests must be 18 or older to attend the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo. A limited number of tickets are available for this event. Advance tickets are $20 through February 7th. Tickets will be available at the door for $28 while supplies last. For more information or to buy tickets, visit wicannabisexpo.com, wicannabisexpo.com.
Milwaukee, tune in from 11 to 2 on Talk 101.7 FM for the Thom Hartmann Program. Join the show's conversation because our democracy is not a spectator sport. Listen live Monday through Friday right here on Talk 101.7 FM, Wisconsin's political talk network.
For 101.7 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett is criticizing the promotion of a formerly retired police captain to the rank of assistant chief. Since she was already retired, Regina Howard will continue to receive her pension in addition to a raise for her new position. Barrett says it is unfair to the taxpayers of Milwaukee to pay someone on the command staff more than $100,000 a year and have them receive a full pension on top of that. Howard would collect more than $190,000 a year between her salary and her pension. And the Bucks beat the Sixers last night, 112-101. They are off tonight, then go to Orlando tomorrow to play the Magic. Forecast for tonight, mostly cloudy, lows around 22 in Milwaukee, 15 in Madison, mostly cloudy tomorrow, highs around 30 degrees. For Sunday, snow likely 2 to 4 inches possible, highs in the low 30s. You're listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We stream on YouTube, we stream on Facebook, also on Twitter, and you can join us on the phones toll free at 844-967-2789. It's Friday. We're airing grievances. Let's hear some of yours. We'll start with Brad in Madison. Hey, Brad, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates. What do you got for us today?
Hey, guys, doing an excellent job as usual.
Well, thanks, man.
I feel like we live in a bizarre world when the Honorable Donnie Bone Spurs can call out Vindeman. I mean, do even Republicans buy this stuff?
I think they do now, Brad. They do now. Trump is the Republican Party. I mean, that's been evident for some time, and certainly the vote has shown that to be. So it's not about character and morals and, party platform. It's about what does Trump want? What does Trump think? And if we do Trump's bidding, then we're good. And so they will not criticize Trump for ripping on Vindeman. I mean, he's the enemy. No, yeah, decorated vet, yada, yada, yada. They only like the ones that, not just the ones that don't get caught, but the ones that support them without questioning them.
We're in a really dangerous place with this guy above the law. Something that Obama kind of started was his tactical nuclear weapons program, and now Trump is continuing this. And how Trump works. You know, he goes big or he goes home. So I could see him dropping a nuke on somebody.
Not unless
Probably
the polling's down, Brad. Not unless the polling's down. So have confidence. Not unless his approval ratings go down a little.
So, can I announce an event that's on Sunday?
Do it quick, buddy.
All right. Sunday on East Washington, Madison East High, there will be an educational forum about F-35s, PFAS, the expansion at Truex, and much more. It will be from 2 to 4, February 9th, Sunday.
At Madison East High School, 2 to 4 this Sunday. If Brad says it, it's true.
Thanks for the call, Brad.
844-967-2789. Steve, you seem more like a stranger. Who are you?
Hello,
and can
Steve.
you be trusted?
Hello. Hey, first-time caller, kind of a new listener also. Hey, couple things for you. Like your show. First off, Mitt Romney, a pretty decent senator, the only one that would step outside of it. But I got a better one for you. Ron Johnson. So his name came up a lot in the impeachment. Isn't there a recourse for what he knew, when he knew it, and why can't we start expulsion for him? That would be bittersweet, I think.
You know, we've heard contradicting opinions about whether or not you can recall a U.S. senator. You cannot impeach a U.S. senator. I think you basically have to beat them at the ballot box, don't you?
No, you can expel them. There's been 15 to 20, something like that, that you can be expelled from the Senate.
But what's the process? Wouldn't you have to be expelled by your colleagues in the Senate? They love Ron. He's their kind of guy. At least 52 of them.
So I put a call into to Mark Pocan's office. I think it has to be started just like an impeachment through the House. And really, here's the problem. What he knew when he came back from Ukraine and what he did with that information. He should have ran to the White House. He should have ran to the DOJ, shouldn't he?
The DOJ, at first blush, when they got the whistleblowers report, despite the fact it was supposed to have gone to Congress, the DOJ said nothing, right? But the AG or the IG, I forget which, said urgent, incredible. Yes, Ron should have reported everything he knew, if not to the Department of Justice and Bill Barr's organization, Steve, probably to the American people, should have offered to have been a witness, should have come forward on the Devil's Advocates radio show, and maybe he could somehow save his everlasting soul. Now I think it's in real jeopardy.
Thanks for the call, man. Crudy, on a side note from the desert.com, U.S. Senator recall bill picks up steam in Utah after Mitt Romney votes to convict
So they
Trump.
want to recall Romney.
But they don't have the ability to do it. There's a Utah lawmakers bill would allow Utahns to recall an elected U.S. senator. So perhaps it's state by state?
Apparently. 844-967-2789. Betsy! I think Tony called out your name. You have a chance to respond.
Hey, Betsy.
Oh, you guys. Oh, I don't know what I'd do without you, honestly, because I'm just pretty darn hopeless. This is really scary times. I mean, I say it's the first day of the Civil War. I mean, they're taking over. I mean, my God, or whatever.
Trump is certainly emboldened by his acquittal.
All of them. Did you hear Ron Johnson yesterday? My God.
Oh, I got an earful of Ron. Sure, I heard him.
Yeah. This is so.
Now, Betsy, I hear what you're saying, and it does look a little bit daunting sometimes.
Dom's concerned you're going to go full Betsy on us.
Let's remember, though. I mean, we started this thing, the Mueller report, right? And there's lots of wrongdoings in the Mueller report, and hopefully at some point we'll get some redacted versions of that. We talked to Jim Santel. There's still court cases going on. The U.S. Supreme Court, March 31st, are going to hear regarding these taxes, and apparently, according to Jim, regarding McGahn. So that's coming up at the end of March. I mean, that's 6 weeks away? We're going to get at least some of that. Then, let's not forget, we have the state of New York investigating Trump on a variety of issues, and we still have the whole issue with the the German Deutsche Bank. Hopefully some of that will come out as well as a result of perhaps the result of the U.S. Supreme Court on the taxes issue. So while we're 0 for 2, but we're 0 for 2 maybe because the man's still there. But we've continued to get more and more information, and the more these Republicans react the way they do, the deeper they keep digging their hole.
Betsy, can I offer you?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to offer you some real hope.
Okay.
Let's hear this.
Over 50% of the American people believe that Trump should have been impeached and removed from office, depending on whose polling you looked at. Even Fox News had the American people at 50% or more. Above and beyond that, 75% of people thought there should have been Ukrainian witnesses. People like John Bolton telling us the truth.
Yeah.
People that guys like Ron Johnson voted against telling us the truth, because it would have taken months, Betsy. So ultimately,
Ron Johnson, yeah.
But understand, the court is the court of public opinion. You're the court. You're a juror. You have an option to convict.
But Trudy, you know that Trump is illegitimate. He did not win. The Russians helped him win, and they're going to help him
Betsy,
win again. And that's what scares me.
He is the president through the legitimate electoral college outcome, and he will remain the president until the jurors that are the American people like you and I and our little buddy Dom, we get to decide ultimately not just on Ron Johnson, but on 24 Republican senators this term and on Ron Johnson in 2022. And I have a very long memory, Betsy. I'm going to remember all of this, and I'm going to hold it against all of them. And when Bolton's book comes out on March 17th, that's like a month from now, Betsy, it better exonerate Ron Johnson to the letter of what he told us yesterday, because if we caught Ron in a big fat lie, you know what? I'm going to make sure that is disseminated widely.
Well, good, but that you're looking at, look at what they're doing already. This is like 2016 all over again with the Iowa caucus and everything, and they're trying to, push Bernie out.
Well, it's even better than 2016, Betsy, because now if there's any shenanigans, any concerns, well, you cannot investigate any campaigns unless you get the written approval of the Attorney General Barr.
It's just disgusting. Oh my gosh. All right. Well,
Betsy, have a great weekend, sister. Hang in there.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
The only electioneering concerns I think we should have were the Trump supporters that filled up the vote tally phone lines in Iowa. They jammed the phones with intentional forethought and malice. That is a violation of campaign finance law, or at least I've seen it asserted as such on social media.
Yeah, well, good luck on that.
Some people claim tearing a speech in half is a violation of law as well.
Breaking the law.
844-967-2789. It's Friday. Your grievances, they matter here. Darren, what do you got for us?
Hey, Darren.
Hey, Darren.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for first and foremost, but I just want to speak on Mitt Romney. I really. You look at him and I compare him to all the rest of the people that are in, the U.S. Senate, the Republicans. He's the only person that I believe that is in, that was the primary candidate for the Republican presidency, right? And when he got up there and spoke and he talked about his faith, and he's the only person I feel like, and everybody knows what Trump did. They know. And he had the guts to actually say it. And for people, there was a couple callers before, I think Betsy, they were talking about, getting rid of, expelling or whatever.
Recalling or expelling Ron Johnson, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's an absolute joke. And you see that to have that, it's just more of a takeover. That's never been done in my knowledge, to have a recall. I mean, like long term, like someone like Mitt Romney, who's been in the Senate for so long, right? To have that actually done. So I just want to say I credit him on his knowledge and just having the guts to go forward. Another thing too, gentlemen, I wanted to ask you. I'm not 100% sure, but with Israel, and I think about the voting, the election coming up, is it not? I feel like a lot of the machines that you actually register and you put your vote in, are they not made in Israel?
The ones that aren't patented to Ivanka Trump and made in China, Darren, I'm not clear. Diebold or some of the other big makers, I have heard that many of them are Republican supported. Diebold Corporation, I thought was out of Ohio.
It's one of them, yeah. There's a couple main suppliers, to my understanding.
I'm not clear if the Israelis make our voting machines or not. I prefer the paper ballot method. You know, the machines. I looked at Iowa and not so good.
Thanks for the call, Darren. Just a note, as Crudy mentioned earlier, Romney, a newly elected senator, he was governor for quite some time. 844-967-2789.
And may have had a presidential campaign thrown in the middle there somewhere.
Is that what that was? Boy, was he stiff. L.A. Tom, you are up. Thanks for calling today, Tom. Happy Friday. What do you got for us?
Hey, Tom.
Happy Friday, guys. We the people are the government.
You said it, brother.
I wanted to talk about a grievance that I have, which is, I don't know who it is that does the top of the hour, not the Spectrum Pabletti one, but the just the regular news that does the top of the hour, the bottom of the hour. I think it's like a national news thing. I just think it's it bugs the crap out of me that every time they talk, first off, that's what a lot of people only hear is just that little bit of news. And it's always negative, it seems like, towards the Democratic candidate and puts President Trump like he's in this, not my president, hashtag not my president, but puts him like he's in this position where his sound bites are the only thing that get put on there. And then also he, the biggest thing that they do on all these TV stations, radio stations, everything is they'll talk about, the stock market is up, blah, blah, blah. Stock market is, down. It's like, that's not the real economy. And it just drives me crazy when I hear that. It's either ABC News or something like that that's at the top of the hour or bottom of the hour.
Well, Tom, here on the Wisconsin Political Talk Network, we use Westwood One News, which is a component of CNN. Now, Trump would call it fake news, but I never thought you would, Tom. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates right here. You can air your Friday grievances. No one's ripping on Stu's news, are they?
No, it wasn't Stu. I think it was Westwood One he's talking about.
I know what he was talking about. Come back with us. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
Too fast? Too furious? Does that make sense?
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Milwaukee is about to get greener this winter with the debut of the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo presented by the Shepherd Express on February 8, 2020 at the Wisconsin Center. It features exhibitors, speakers, and an estimated 2,000 plus attendees. This business-to-business and business-to-consumer one-day expo will feature over 100 exhibitors covering all angles of the industry. During the event, guests will have a chance to sample and purchase product, attend presentation from leading experts in the cannabis, CBD, and hemp industry, chat with thousands of cannabis enthusiasts, and network. Guests must be 18 or older to attend the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo. A limited number of tickets are available for this event. Advance tickets are $20 through February 7th. Tickets will be available at the door for $28 while supplies last. For more information or to buy tickets, visit wicannabisexpo.com, wicannabisexpo.com.
The following is a public service message from Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
In 2020, Wisconsin has 4 statewide elections. Make sure you are registered to vote. Republicans are doing everything they can to make it more difficult for citizens to cast their ballot. Americans have fought and died for the right to vote. The next election is the spring primary on February 18th. Check your registration at myvote.wi.gov.
listening to the radio show your mother warned you about. Tom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy Friday, everyone. Join us right now, 844-967-2789.
Let's get to the phones. We'll start with the phone call. And Wisco Paul, how you doing this fine Friday afternoon, Wisco Paul?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Devils. Happy Friday to you guys.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Hey, the Trump train needs to be derailed. So my grievance today is the Iowa caucus. It is called a boondoggle, and it's a good thing for you guys if you guys have gained, if I said that right, new listeners in southern Iowa, so that's pretty cool. But I think it makes tonight, I'm going to ask you too, I think makes tonight's debate bigger than ever between Bernie and Liz, because they live right out there, and also with Joe. I don't think Pete won Iowa fair, in my opinion, but nobody's going to really know that. And also, I think them three need a top three finish, especially Bernie and Elizabeth.
Well, whoever wants to be the nominee needs a top one finish, I would say. And I would point out, Buttigieg did have the best finish in Iowa. The greatest exceeding of expectations of any of the candidates, I would say, was Pete Buttigieg. Now, I think on raw votes, Bernie absolutely won the state of Iowa. I think that Bernie, relative to my expectations, underperformed a little bit in Iowa. Let's not forget he got 49.9% or 49.6% of the delegates prior. Now, that was a different elective cycle, and there were far fewer candidates in the mix. But the fact that Bernie's at 25.8 to 26.2%, no, I don't think Bernie performed as well as he could, and I know that Buttigieg got a big bump. I mean, in the polling, he's up 10, 11 points in New Hampshire, but it's still going to be Bernie that wins New Hampshire on Tuesday. I feel comfortable with that prediction, and I think it's still going to be Bernie that wins the Nevada caucus on February 22nd. That's a Saturday. Now, Dom and I will take you to the next debate. A debate tonight. We do not have the broadcast rights, but we are going to go, Paul, to Las Vegas. We're going to broadcast on the Vegas Strip, right, Dom?
Yes, on
the
Strip.
Paris Hotel, the Paris Theater, and the next presidential debate will be February 19th. That is a week from Wednesday, and Dom McCrude will be there, and then we'll have another day. We'll do a post-debate after-party wrap-up show and also kind of set the stage for the Nevada caucus. Now, the more diverse these states get, the harder and harder it's going to be for Pete Buttigieg unless he changes trajectory immediately with voters of color, African Americans, Latinos. That's where he's going to be exposed. He might have done okay in Iowa, and he might do okay in New Hampshire, but do okay in Nevada and South Carolina, and then tell me how well Pete Buttigieg is doing.
Doesn't he hurt Joe the most, Crudy?
Oh, yeah, he's killing Joe. His strength is coming from former Biden supporters, or at least those that you could see being supportive of Biden. And the polling strength that Buttigieg is showing in New Hampshire, that has come entirely at the expense of Joe Biden. Joe Biden, not even in New Hampshire today. Joe Biden left the campaign trail and went home to Delaware to apparently reconfigure his campaign apparatus. I mean, Joe Biden's in real trouble. And Joe Biden, I think, will underperform. He might take third, fourth, or fifth place in New Hampshire, and it could be all over but the crying for the Joe Biden campaign. He might not make it to South Carolina. I think he'll certainly remain in the field. He's going to need South Carolina desperately. But if he doesn't win South Carolina, Joe Biden could be done before Super Tuesday.
Well, for heaven's sakes, Cootie, if he doesn't, former vice president, right?
Yeah, but he's never won a primary or a caucus. Do you know Joe Biden's on his third presidential run? He's never won a state yet. Well, how do you claim electability if you've never won a state? Even Pete Buttigieg has got some claim to having won the delegated whatever's they're called in Iowa. Pete Buttigieg has a better claim to make at this time in history than Joe Biden, the former vice president.
Okay, I'll throw a hypothetical out there, a devil's advocate. So if it finishes Bernie, which I think he's going to win out there, Elizabeth and Pete, doesn't that end Joe? I mean, how can you
No,
go
he'll
on
stay
after
until
that?
South Carolina. It's coming up too quick.
Okay.
The election's on the 11th of February in New Hampshire, first primary. That'll be straight votes. We'll have results that night. Then on the 19th, on the 22nd, the debate in Las Vegas is on the 19th. The caucus is on Saturday the 22nd. And then South Carolina happens on Saturday, Leap Day, February 29th. And if there is any momentum for Joe Biden, it's going to be far too late to carry him through Super Tuesday. Well, we see that Bernie, with his surge of fundraising, Bernie's sticking more money into Super Tuesday states, Nevada and South Carolina. Elizabeth Warren, she's pulling her advertising back. Joe Biden scrambling his campaign team after one state caucus. So Buttigieg and Bernie right now are in the driver's seat until something unpredictable happens, which happens like pretty much every day around here, Paul. Right now it's a race between Bernie and Buttigieg, and Elizabeth Warren's going to have financial problems of her own. If she doesn't show better, perhaps a second or a first in some state very, very soon.
Doesn't she need at least? She needs the top three in New Hampshire. Second would be good. If she doesn't get the top three in New Hampshire, and some dark horse comes through like Amy or something, that's Elizabeth is my candidate. She's in deep trouble then.
Well,
correct?
Warren's in trouble right now. I mean, her third place finish in Iowa has put her in a bad position, and she was already struggling to fundraise, and she's already pulling back ads, and that's never a good sign. And she has the biggest campaign staff.
Thanks for the call, Paul. Always appreciate it. Have a great weekend, man. Crudy, some polling. Sunday, February 7th, the South Carolina Democratic presidential primary. Biden up by 5 over Sanders. Steyer pulling 18 on the Post-and-Courier
Sanders,
poll
from
South Carolina. Hang on one second. And then another poll from yesterday from East Carolina U. Biden at 37. He's up 18 over Steyer. So, yeah, he'll stay alive to South Carolina, man.
Viable would be a whole different question.
That's why they have the primaries.
Is it?
Yeah.
Come back with us. Devil's Advocates, it's Friday Night Fights. There is a Democratic presidential debate in the great state of New Hampshire tonight. You skipped that one. The weather, unpredictable in the great Northeast, but we'll be in Vegas.
Who cares what the weather is?
Yeah, Vegas, baby. We'll take you with what happens in Vegas. Gets broadcast on the radio right here. Talk 101.7 Milwaukee, Talk 92.7 Madison. We'll be right back with your Friday grievances at 844-967-2789.
Do you want to be a winner? All the winners I know like the Devil's Advocates Facebook page.
The one thing we know, and they do say, anybody that runs against Trump suffers.
Oh my God, we're burning alive!
Gingras, Thompson, and Wachs, the attorneys with more power, more fight, and the most heart, are here to serve you, Milwaukee. From personal injury to civil rights cases, we are determined to combat dishonesty and injustice. And our team brings the fight with integrity, passion, and dedication that never quits. Together, we right the wrong, and we are ready for battle. There are law firms, and then there is Gingras, Thompson, and Wachs. Find us online at gtwlawyers.com.
If you're like a lot of companies, you know you need IT, but you aren't sure where to start. That's where Five Nines comes in. Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO. For almost 15 years, Five Nines has been providing IT solutions to companies just like yours. We'll show you the solutions that are right for your business and give you the roadmap to success in the future. Find us at 5nines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
Fired following testimony, virus toll rises. I'm Barbara Cusack.
An aide who testified against President Trump in the impeachment hearings has been escorted out of the White House. According to his lawyer, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindeman has been transferred from the National Security Council back to the Pentagon. Correspondent Manu Raju says reaction on Capitol Hill has just gotten started.
One from the House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Elliot Engel, who was part of that impeachment inquiry in the House. He issued a statement that says this is shameful, of course, but this is also what we should now expect from an impeached president whose party has decided he is above the law and accountable to no one. And any senator who voted to keep Trump in office, thinking he has learned his lesson, must answer for this and for whatever parade of abuses we see in the future.
The Trump administration announced that it would commit up to $100 million to outbreak relief efforts due to the spread of the coronavirus. President Trump expressed confidence in China's strength in confronting the challenge of the outbreak, telling reporters,
"They're working really hard, and I think they're doing a very professional job."
China has reported 81 new deaths due to coronavirus, pushing the death toll to 699. The Iowa Democratic Party has been trying to fix the damage from the problems with the Iowa caucuses that delayed results. Party Chairman Troy Price promised a full accounting.
We will be undergoing an independent forensic review of the challenges that we saw on Monday night. What went right, what went wrong from start to finish, and what we can do better in the future.
7 of the Democratic presidential hopefuls take to the stage tonight to debate in New Hampshire ahead of next week's primary. Hardly 225,000 jobs were added to the economy last night as threats are posed by China's viral outbreak, an ongoing trade war, and struggles at Boeing. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Milwaukee is about to get greener this winter with the debut of the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo presented by the Shepherd Express on February 8, 2020 at the Wisconsin Center. It features exhibitors, speakers, and an estimated 2,000 plus attendees. This business-to-business and business-to-consumer one-day expo will feature over 100 exhibitors covering all angles of the industry. During the event, guests will have a chance to sample and purchase product, attend presentation from leading experts in the cannabis, CBD, and hemp industry, chat with thousands of cannabis enthusiasts, and network. Guests must be 18 or older to attend the Wisconsin Cannabis Expo. A limited number of tickets are available for this event. Advance tickets are $20 through February 7th. Tickets will be available at the door for $28 while supplies last. For more information or to buy tickets, visit wicannabisexpo.com, wicannabisexpo.com.
As the world has been focusing on the spread of coronavirus, influenza remains rampant in the U.S.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says cases of the flu continued to increase and remained high in the United States in the week ending February 1st. Strong levels of flu activity were reported in 45 states and Puerto Rico. The CDC estimates that this flu season, which started on September 29th, there have been at least 22 million cases of the illness in the U.S., 210,000 hospitalizations, and 12,000 deaths. The number of children who have died of influenza totals 78 so far. I'm Ann Cates.
Roger Kahn, the writer who wove memoir and baseball and touched millions of readers through his romantic account of the Brooklyn Dodgers in The Boys of Summer, has died. He was 92. And the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show is set to begin this weekend in New York City with more than 2,600 dogs. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Teamsters Local 200 encourages you to vote in Wisconsin's primary February 18th. The Wisconsin Supreme Court, Milwaukee Mayor and County Executive primaries, plus local judicial and supervisor races are all on the ballot. When the polls close at 8 p.m., tune in to exclusive election night coverage on Wisconsin's Political Talk Network, 101.7 FM Milwaukee and Talk 92.7 FM Madison, hosted by Maggie Dawn and Earl Ingram Jr. Live Tuesday, February 18th. Brought to you by Teamsters Local 200. Your vote matters.
Max Inc. Radio, this is Rocker. Hey, Jimmy. What? I don't care if they have witnesses. You tell that crispy crudy guy to... Hey, Jimmy, I gotta take this call. It's William Shatner. He's a really big fan. Hey, William, unplug from the politics with Max Inc. Radio, Saturday and Sundays, 6 to 9 p.m. on 92.7 FM Madison, 101.7 FM Milwaukee, and streaming online at maxincradio.com.
For 101.7 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison. I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Wisconsin's Republican lawmakers are planning to pass new tough-on-crime legislation. The package of bills would result in sending more people to prison, putting more juveniles behind bars, and limiting when inmates could be released from prison. Assembly Minority Leader Gordon Hintz says the Republican plan is ridiculous and costly. The state's prisons are already overpopulated, and the bills would make them even more crowded. Wisconsin's prisons were designed to hold fewer than 18,000 people, but at this time have about 5,700 more inmates than maximum capacity. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison tonight, mostly cloudy, lows around 22 in Milwaukee, 15 in Madison. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, highs around 30 degrees. For Sunday, snow likely 2 to 4 inches possible, highs in the low 30s. You're listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 5 o'clock Friday happy hour, the happiest hour of the week, at least the happiest broadcast hour, perhaps ever. So I'm excited to make that announcement. Also, later in this hour, Dom, I got a grievance. I want to save it, though. Fox News has decided that Sean Hannity's reporting entirely unreliable.
No.
Well, we knew it, but Fox News also quite aware of Sean Hannity's indiscretions and his sources, including John Solomon. You know, the guy that Rojo was quoting in here yesterday, the Ukraine CrowdStrike guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he is perhaps the most unreliable of them all. But we'll come back to that.
Of course. We'll
deal with this tomorrow night.
It was all a hit job, man.
No, I don't want to be accused of being conspiratorial like Sean Hannity. But
No.
if I was going to weave a conspiracy theory, it would start in Iowa.
Well, you got to start at the beginning.
Well, it started 4 years ago in Iowa with the screwing of Bernie Sanders on the allocation of delegates. A couple of coin flips later, what do you know? Hillary Clinton is declared the winner. Now, Bernie did bounce back and win New Hampshire, and he very well may do that again. But Bernie Sanders had all the momentum going into the Iowa caucus, right? All the polling we saw had Bernie surging to the lead. We saw his fundraising totals from the month of January, enormous. And we also saw an avalanche of negative stories about Bernie Sanders in a lot of the mainstream media. It's almost like the Clintonistas were saying, you know, if we're going to take this guy out, we need to do something about it right about now. And I'm not saying there's any causation or correlation to the fact that it was former Hillary campaign staffers that created the Shadow Incorporated app that blew up Bernie's big night in Iowa. But I will point out the former nominee is taking a crack again at who I think should be the next nominee, Hillary Clinton, casted more shade. I'm going to read this article. CNN reporting, Hillary Clinton blasted Senator Bernie Sanders in a new documentary saying nobody likes him and declining in an interview with the Hollywood Reporter to say whether she would endorse and campaign for him if he's the Democratic 2020 nominee. He was in Congress for years. He had one senator support him. Nobody likes him. Nobody wants to work with him. He's got nothing done, Clinton said in the film, according to the Hollywood Reporter. He's a career politician, completely unlike Hillary. It's all just baloney, and I feel so bad that people got sucked into it. Oh, I'm glad that you feel bad for me.
You're wrong.
The comments in the documentary are aimed directly at his core campaign appeal that he's a political outsider pitching revolutionary change. The new round of lacerating attacks come less than 2 weeks before the Iowa caucuses, which Clinton nearly won in 2016, and where Sanders is locked in a tight four-way race this year. They also have the potential to reignite a divisive 4-year-old fight that was never fully faded from Democrats' minds. More recently, in a common censor loss to Donald Trump, Clinton has blamed Sanders for damaging her campaign. In response to Clinton's remarks, Sanders said in a statement that his focus was President Donald Trump's impeachment trial. Together, we're going to go forward and defeat the most dangerous president in American history. Let's jump down, Dom, because I thought there was new Clinton.
I do have it here. From CNN Politics, Caroline Kennedy from today. I'm sorry, this is from yesterday, 7 o'clock p.m. When asked by talk show host Ellen DeGeneres if she wanted to address her prior remarks about the Vermont Independent, Clinton noted that while she originally made them about a year and a half ago, quote, I have a pretty clear perspective about what it's going to take to win. And as I said earlier, that's what I think the key calculation for any voter has to be to win. You've got to be responsible for what you say and what you say you're going to do, Clinton added. We need to rebuild trust in our fellow Americans and in our institutions. And if you promise the moon and you can't deliver the moon, then that's going to be one more indicator of how you know we just can't trust each other. CNN goes on to report that Sanders' campaign declined to comment Thursday. When Clinton's previous remarks surfaced, Crudy, you said it, together we're going to move forward and defeat the most dangerous president in American history. Clinton's comments Thursday came as Sanders is in a near tie with Mayor Pete Buttigieg in the Iowa caucuses. Clinton's prior comments about Sanders, her 2016 opponent in the Democratic Party, were aimed directly at his core campaign appeal that he's a political outsider pitching revolutionary change. And Crudy, you read that comment. He was in Congress for years. No one likes him. CNN goes on to report on Thursday, Clinton followed up her comments on responsibility by pointing to health care, a key issue for Sanders, who's a well-known proponent of Medicare for All. In October, Sanders said he doesn't need to come up with a detailed plan right now for how much his signature health care plan would cost individual Americans. Quote, I want quality, affordable health care for everybody, but let's remember what's at stake. We have a current president who's trying to take away fundamental health care rights, Clinton said, referencing the Trump administration's support for a lawsuit blocking looking to invalidate the Affordable Care Act, including protections for people with pre-existing conditions. Clinton goes on to say, so we can have a big argument about ideally what kind of health care we should want for everybody because I'm on the front lines on that battle. But let's remember, if we don't win, people will lose what they have right now, she added. So I just want everybody to understand how high the stakes are and to hold every candidate and every public office holder accountable for what they do or they don't do. And Clinton has hinted repeatedly over the last few months that Sanders was unfit to be the Democratic nominee. In December, she told Stern that Sanders had hurt me with a slow endorsement in 2016. Quote, and I hope he doesn't do it again to whoever gets the nomination once. Is enough. So Hillary Clinton not backing down.
Well, if I were a conspiratorial sort, I would almost think that this was some sort of conspiracy. The Clintonistas are acting in tandem to try and take Bernie down.
Let's address the
now.
issues. I mean, if we don't win, healthcare is going to get taken away. Okay, fair enough. If we assume that's true, that's all the more reason you need someone like Bernie to win, right? Hell, any Dem winning would not do what the Republicans are.
Can I propose an alternative conspiracy theory?
Another one?
Hillary Clinton's angling for the vice presidency. Hillary Clinton wants to remain relevant. Hillary Clinton wants someone to pick her as the sidecar. She's looking at guys like Biden, probably not Buttigieg, but Biden. Well, hell, she'd certainly add a lot of experience to a Buttigieg ticket. I mean, the guy's got no governance other than a town of 100,000. Or Bloomberg, because I think he will be the next big thing in the Democratic side if Buttigieg starts to falter, and I think Bernie will gather strength, then suddenly Bloomberg's going to seem like a great alternative. You know, the technocrat, the billionaire with the unlimited resources to self-fund, and he's going to need someone to soften him up a little bit, right?
Oh, because that's Hillary? Hillary's the soften up? Come on,
to
man.
her own perception.
Wait, but
there are articles saying that that's precisely what she is doing.
And are you buying that? Are you buying that Hillary Clinton's going to soften anybody up?
Well, no, but I'm buying the fact that she is overly ambitious and would love another opportunity to be relevant, to be somebody's sidecar. You know, if you can't win the presidency, the VP's the next best thing. And if it's an old white guy like, let's say, Bloomberg or Biden, you know, you're only a heartbeat away from the presidency.
Sounds like a conspiracy theory to me, man.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
844-967-2789. Robert from Dallas, you're up. Happy Friday. Welcome to the conspiracy. What do you got for us?
Hey, Robert.
I'm actually going to change topics after what you guys just read. Can we just put Hillary Clinton, her crap, to bed?
If she would go away, I would certainly be more than willing to just remember her as a strong Secretary of State and a good former senator from the state of New York. I'd love to look at her in the rearview mirror, but she won't go away. She keeps creeping up on us, Robert. And I think there is probably some truth to the fact that she would love to be someone's sidecar. She would love to be the vice president.
For sure. But, I mean, you know, this notion that Bernie didn't help her out, he did 41 rallies after she was
I think it was only 37, Robert, including one in Wisconsin that I covered, and I interviewed Bernie Sanders as a Hillary surrogate, you know, because I never got to interview Hillary on behalf of her own campaign. She never came back to Wisconsin. Hell, at 37 rallies, I think Bernie did more rallies than Hillary did.
Yeah, he did. She did about 12 for Obama, and their motto, the people that supported her, they called themselves Pumas, which stood for Party Unity, and you know what the last word is. And it infuriates me that she said he didn't come for her and try to support her. He did everything in his power to support the woman.
But it wasn't fast. You know, Sanders did not move quickly enough in his endorsement, according to Hillary Clinton, and that hurt her chances.
But she talks about his approval rating. He's been the most popular senator in the last 4 years. His approval ratings in the 70s.
Yeah, but that's what's with the constituency, though. She's talking about, you know, his co-workers over at the Senate. Apparently, nobody likes them.
You know, I was PolitiFacted once. It's glued on the table right there. I made the statement, Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in America. I was rated mostly true. In one opinion poll that year, Barack Obama was 1% higher. Otherwise, it's Bernie Sanders. I didn't see Hillary on that list. Haters. Shake it off. Bernie, shake it off. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, more of your Friday grievances. 844-967-2789.
Hey, what happened? This is a conspiracy. That's what this is. One big damn conspiracy. And everyone's in on it.
Congratulations for staying awake all day.
How did Scott Walker win 3 governor's races in Wisconsin? How did Donald Trump win Wisconsin, carry the presidency despite losing the primary to Ted Cruz? Right-wing talk radio. 81 stations spewing 235 hours a day of righty hate across the Badger State. You cannot win elections in Wisconsin by ceding the airwaves to Republicans, especially in Milwaukee and the Wall counties. The answer, we built a Wisconsin political talk network, 2 Metro FM stations in Milwaukee and Madison, rural AM stations in Waukesha and Columbus, covering 2.5 million Wisconsinites with our message. I used my own savings, my credit, pledged my home, sold my business. I'm all in. Are you? Can you stand with us now? I have built a messaging tool. We have assembled a great team, but changing outcomes requires rapid promotion and costs money. Can you help me? Can you buy ads, promote your campaign, or give a direct donation?
If you can help us, go to GoFundMe.com and search Resistance Radio Wisconsin.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
The following is a public service message from Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
In 2020, Wisconsin has 4 statewide elections. Make sure you are registered to vote. Republicans are doing everything they can to make it more difficult for citizens to cast their ballot. Americans have fought and died for the right to vote. The next election is the spring primary on February 18th. Check your registration at myvote.wi.gov.
The Devil's Advocates. We drink when we toast. We toast when we drink.
And we are back. Thank you for listening. Happy Friday, 844-967-2789. We've been partying all week. Now let's just keep it going.
Philip from West Dallas, you're next. Welcome to the party, sir. What do you got for us?
Hello, from Waukesha.
Hey, man.
Hey, I just wanted to weigh in a little bit. I mean, why do we do this all the time? I mean, Hillary Clinton ran a bad campaign. Bernie, I still think Bernie would have won if he would have been the nominee. And, she made a lot of mistakes. And I think what's happening is you see the corporate media, they're going to cover Biden and the more center position Democrats, because Bernie and Elizabeth Warren want to break them up, and that's where all the money's going. And they're afraid to death that they don't want either of those two to be president.
Well, Philip, I think before we get quite that far, they want a horse race. They want a competitive race because that's how they get paid. There's a lot of money in these political cycles. Bloomberg in and of himself may spend $1 billion. Bernie Sanders may raise and spend $1 billion. Hillary Clinton raised and spent, as did Barack Obama, $1 billion. Well, you know what? The longer the primary goes on, the greater the payday for all these media outlets.
And the closer it is.
Yeah, they want it close. You need a competitive race. You need someone to challenge Bernie. If Bernie ran away and hid with a nomination, if Bernie goes 1, 2, 3, bang, 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 and wins big, it's all over but the crying. I mean, Bloomberg can't even firewall the Super Tuesday states at that late hour. But if you can diminish Bernie now, if you don't let him run away and hide with the nomination, well, hell, man, there'll be lots of political spending to come, and that's just Bloomberg.
But Philip, let me be the devil's advocate on this thing. I mean, of course, that's why there's a primary. There's lots of people running. Hell, we had more people running on the Dem side than the Republicans did last time. Everyone thinks they're the one to win. Hillary thinks she's the one to win, and she didn't. You say she didn't run a good campaign. Well, she got the nomination. Right now, granted, I would agree with you. She should have come back to Wisconsin, but she didn't. And she ended up, of course, losing. But at the end of the day, everyone's got opinions about this. A lot of people are against Bernie right now, Crudy. All the people in the race.
All wrong.
They're all in the race against him.
Sure.
Well, I mean, come on.
No. It's time to sort it out. It's time to sort it out.
Well, but that's the thing. And I appreciate Clinton's perspective. She can say what she wants. She has every right to say what she wants. And just because you don't agree with it,
but she's trying to relitigate the 2016 race, and that's not good for the 2020 race. It might be good for her wounded ego, but it ain't good for the race, and it isn't good for America. No.
Come on. Good for America. You're going to tell me what's good for America? You sound like those
you want to
politicians.
relive 2016?
The American people want this, and the American people want that.
Really?
Let's be honest.
At no point are we
Crudy
going to
wants what Crudy wants. Hillary wants what Hillary wants. Dom wants what Dom wants.
That's no good. No good for America. No good for the American people. And frankly, no good for the president.
I
agree with you, Chuck.
Come on. No, I mean, I appreciate it. Obviously, still a little salty about it.
Relitigating 216 is great for the American people.
I think Bernie Sanders had the wrong answer when he says, I don't need to figure this out now. I think that if we're going to go down that road, we should have some plan, right? The healthcare issue.
Come on, man. White papers. Nobody ever elected anybody because they got some proposal written by a
He doesn't need to come up with a
tank.
detailed plan right now. So when should he come up with a detailed plan then, Michael?
Once he wins. Once he wins. You know what he's aspiring to. You know what he's hoping to do. I mean, did Obamacare look like Obamacare when he was campaigning on it? No, it had a single-payer component that got thrown out on the first negotiated detail.
So health care for all at any cost.
I'm not clear that I said that, Don.
Well, I'm asking you.
I'm just saying.
I mean, if you can't say it's X, then you can't say it's 2X is too much or 10X is way too much.
I think the Kaiser Institute did a pretty comprehensive number. The Coke Industries number was a $2 trillion savings over the course of a decade, man.
But Bernie Sanders has said that. He doesn't come up with a plan yet. He doesn't need to do that right now. He's not quoting the Kaiser Institute.
He doesn't need to publish his plan and leave it open to scrutiny. How did that work out for Elizabeth Warren? She published a plan. She published lots of plans. And the one that people didn't like has effectively killed her candidacy.
But if you can't quantify the number, then you can't say, Crudy, I'm down for Medicare for all, but then you have to
quantify the number.
What's the number?
He's been explicit, $32 trillion over a decade,
How's
and
he
he
gonna
thinks
pay
it will
for it?
save more than that. That is less expenditure than the current U.S. output of gross domestic product and dollars spent on healthcare currently. He's going to replace the existing costs with a lower, more efficient cost structure that costs $2 trillion less over the course of a decade. He's used real numbers. He just didn't publish a white paper.
844-967-2789. Let's keep going on the phones. Dick from Madison, you are next. Thanks, Dick. What do you got today?
You tell him, Dick.
It's hard to follow all that. No, you know something? This is an amazing thing when we're to a point now where I smell Bloomberg. I really do, because the last caller talking about all this corporate stuff. And isn't it amazing? A former Republican's going to take over the Democratic Party, and a former Democrat invaded and took over the Republican Party.
No, you got it all wrong, Dick. A former Democratic socialist has taken over the Democratic Party, and the Democrats and the corporatists, they don't like it much.
No, and they don't. And they don't. And I agree with that totally. But, you know, thanks to Citizens United, I'm sorry, this has all been brought to you by that wonderful thing that happened in 2010.
Well, I tell you what, that never would have been a prohibition on self-funding. Bloomberg and his $50 billion always could have bought himself a seat at the table. Now, whether or not he wins the election ultimately, I think it's a long shot. But you're going to hear a lot of Bloomberg or bust if Buttigieg falters next, because Biden's heading down. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, more of your Friday grievances at 844-967-2789.
Want to see the super sexiest political show on earth? Check out the Devil's Advocates on YouTube.
Innuendos and intimations swirled around.
Hey, well, you're going to have to take me to dinner first.
You're wrong.
The Devil's Advocates are going to Vegas, baby, for a Democratic presidential debate. And, of course, we're broadcasting from a hotel casino.
We will broadcast live from the Las Vegas Strip Paris Hotel, site of the Nevada Democratic Presidential Debate Wednesday, February 19th, 5 to 8 Central Time, providing the pre-debate political party. Then Wednesday the 19th, the Devils do the debate after party and caucus preview at our normal time.
Devil's Advocates and you. What happens in Vegas? Broadcast right here on the radio. Talk 1017 FM.
Broadcast sponsored by Teamsters Local 200.
Hello, Milwaukee. Tom Hartman here. Join me on Talk 101.7 FM every Monday through Friday for the Tom Hartman program. From impeachment updates to 2020 election coverage, my show will keep you up to date on everything you need to know. Tune in for the news of the day, share your opinion on the topics we discuss, and join the lively debate with me and my guests each weekday from 11 to 2 on the Tom Hartman program. Only on Talk 101.7 FM, Wisconsin's political talk network. Tag, you're it.
You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
Dom, the Devil's Advocates are going on an adventure.
Join Crute and I for our inaugural 420 2020 celebration from our friends at Expedia Cruise Ship Centers of Madison. Our political party runs for 7 nights over the 420 holiday in sunny and cannabis-legal California. The Hilton La Jolla Torrey Pines is near the beach, boasting a world-class golf course, and is just a few minutes' drive from downtown San Diego.
Expedia prices, local service. Visit them on Madison's west side off Mineral Point Road or Google Expedia Cruise Ship Centers Madison.
More power, more fight, the most heart. Gingras, Thompson & Walks is more than a law firm. We're family. We believe in doing our best to help people in need and right the wrong that's occurred. For more than 35 years, we've helped thousands of clients across the state of Wisconsin get the justice they deserve. Our proven track record of success isn't based solely on our knowledge of the judicial system. Rather, we make it our priority to get to know our clients and their cases so we can best represent them. Gingras, Thompson & Walks. Find us online at gtwlawyers.com.
From kitchens to bathrooms, granite countertops elevate your home from ordinary to extraordinary. Habo Granite & Stone is your local option for luxury countertops at affordable prices. They offer quality service that can be trusted and provide quick installation with no huge lead times. If you have been thinking about upgrading your home with granite countertops, now is the time to contact our team at Habo Granite & Stone. Find us at HAYBO,
Are you considering selling your Madison area home? This is Amy Hopfinger with Homestead Realty. Home prices are changing, so it's important not to waste your time and money with renovations that won't affect the value of your home. Allow my team's experts to determine which projects you should and shouldn't do to receive top dollar for your home. Homestead Realty, no pressure, no obligation to list. To learn more, check out wihomeprices.com.
For 1017 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Before the vote in the U.S. Senate on Wednesday in the impeachment trial of Donald Trump, Senator Tammy Baldwin delivered a floor speech and told her colleagues they would be putting Trump above the law if they did not convict him on both articles of impeachment. Baldwin said, quote, "I refuse to join this president's cover-up, and I refuse to conclude that the president's abuse of power doesn't matter, that it's okay, and that we should just get over it." Baldwin also accused the Republicans of shutting out evidence and witnesses because they didn't want to be bothered by the truth. The senator also brought up Ron Johnson's role in the cover-up and mentioned that John Bolton's account of a White House meeting contradicts Johnson's account of that meeting. Outside tonight, mostly cloudy, lows around 22 in Milwaukee, 15 in Madison. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, highs around 30 degrees. You're listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Bring it? Oh, it's already been brought in. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Friday happy hour. It continues here, Dom, with your phone calls at 844-967-2789. Bernie Sanders, the front runner in New Hampshire, the Iowa caucus winner, according to some people's math, like the votes, had this to say. Earlier today, he was in New Hampshire, and I would point out, Dom, a town hall we broadcast last night, a CNN Westwood One town hall. We've got some sound of Bernie and Buttigieg, but before we go there, Bernie Sanders today, if we could, Fancy Brian, cut number 70 about getting behind the nominee. Let's hope it's Sanders, cut 70.
I think they would all say what I'm going to say to you now. And that is, no matter who wins this nomination, obviously I hope it's myself, all of us will get behind the winner and do everything we humanly can to defeat this most dangerous president.
Well, I hope you're not counting Hillary in that mix. But
and you better do it quick. If you don't do it quick, Hillary will be mad.
I will continue calling for the sound of Bernie Sanders. People are living paycheck to paycheck. Cut 71.
You know what living paycheck to paycheck means? It means that if your car breaks down and you're living in New Hampshire or Vermont and you need to go 30 miles to work, you can't get to work, and you can't afford the $500 you need to fill to get your car repaired.
A little bit more. Bernie Sanders in New Hampshire earlier today, cut 72.
The world has radically changed, And yet the average American worker today not making a nickel more than he or she did 45 years ago, with in inflation accounted for dollars.
Would we record this off AM radio, man?
Straight out of Westwood One, my friend.
Okay, one more. Here is Bernie Sanders, and this one, a pointed attack on the guy claiming victory in Iowa, Pete Buttigieg, you know, buddy to the billionaires. Ooh, Bernie doesn't like them. Cut 73.
I like Pete Buttigieg, nice guy. But we are in a moment where billionaires control not only our economy, but our political life.
Let me read a little bit more from his quote at the Washington Post. Paul Waldman reports, if there's one thing we know about Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, it's that he's got no love for billionaires or millionaires and billionaires, as he says in his charmingly old-timey Brooklyn accent. And now seeing former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg's strong showing in Iowa and rise in the poll of New Hampshire, Sanders is going directly after Buttigieg as a tool of the super rich. Speaking in New Hampshire on Friday, Sanders read aloud a collection of recent headlines about Mayor Pete. One described how Buttigieg has most exclusive billionaire donors of any Democrat. Another characterized the former mayor and management consultant as the party's big business candidate. The Washington Post reported this week that the candidate, who began the race with next to no national name recognition, is getting an even closer look from the big money donors, following what some described as a surprising performance in the Iowa caucuses. It may have slipped your mind with everything else going on, but just a month and a half ago, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren was criticizing Buttigieg for holding a fundraiser in a wine cave. You remember that?
The wine cave.
The basic facts are true enough. Sanders and Warren have eschewed big money fundraising, not only out of conviction, but because they can. Both of them, particularly Sanders, have enough small donors to sustain their campaigns. Buttigieg, on the other hand, has gone the more traditional route of asking people who are capable of writing checks for a couple of $1,000s to do just that. But the critique isn't about contributions themselves. It's about what they're supposed to represent. So is that fair? The answer is a little complicated. It's certainly true that Sanders and Warren propose more sweeping policy changes, including a wealth tax that billionaires are not going to like. But you could also argue that Buttigieg's economic proposals are still quite progressive. He wants a $15 minimum wage, greater protections for unions, expanded government spending on things like childcare, healthcare, and family leave, and so on. In other words, Buttigieg and some other candidates, including former Vice President Joe Biden and Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, are proposing a fairly standard Democratic agenda, which these days could entail significant change. But one of the key ways Warren and Sanders differ from Buttigieg in particular is that while they see some of the same problems in the economy, like inequality, he tells a story about villains, without villains. He doesn't talk about Wall Street or billionaires, while Sanders and Warren, well, they do.
The words millionaires and billionaires literally come out of their mouths, and Pete doesn't say those words.
There are no villains. There are no bad guys. There's just donors and contributors.
If you're a billionaire, are you automatically a bad person?
No. But you may be a sociopath. It is hard to acquire $1 billion, even with the luckiest of fortune and the greatest of ideas. It's hard to get to great wealth without crime or screwing over people. I mean, how do you get that great wealth? It's not because you paid all your employees fairly. Typically, it's because you found some way to offshore.
You invent the internet.
Okay, so Al Gore's not a billionaire.
You know, you come up with a new product, a new service. You
and
repackage
then you screw the workers at the factory and you make lots of money on it.
That's my point then. Then by your definition, then every billionaire has screwed over the workers, and therefore I just ask, are they bad people? You said no, they're not all bad people.
Not in and of itself. The accumulation of wealth in and of itself is not what makes you an evil person. But I believe if you're a religious man, and I know you're not, Tom, there's something in the Bible about it's harder to get into heaven than a rich man to pass through the a camel to pass through the eye of a needle, harder for a rich man to get to heaven than a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. If you are so endowed with great wealth because of your tremendous intelligence or good fortune, the Bible in humanity would say you share some back.
I think there might be some misinterpretation in that particular passage based on my hearing of it. But either way, so yes, generally then, in your opinion, millionaires and billionaires are terrible people. There might be a few that are not, but generally they are.
I think they have enriched themselves greatly at the expense of their workers in almost every case.
So what if you're an athlete, you make $20 million a year?
You ain't turning into a billionaire, not unless you're LeBron James and you've got some massive endorsement deals. I mean, you might talk about 3 athlete turned billionaires in a generation.
And they're good people or bad people?
Bloomberg's got $50 billion.
And he's a psychopath?
Not per se, not unless you're a black guy who doesn't like to be stopped and frisked because he's so high above it in his ivory tower that he is unaware that this is actually a policy that's disparately affecting black people. I think the very rich, they're not like us, Tom. Well, maybe more like you, being a nearly billionaire. But
yeah, I got lots.
Not like me.
I got lots of checks. I'm not clear they would all cash.
Well, that big radio money you make.
844-967-2789.
You'll be a billionaire in no time.
Yeah, do it for the perks. Pizza Box Mike, you are up doing it for the pizza. Hey, Mike, happy Friday. What do you got for us?
Man, Dom, for a while there, I thought you were Anderson Cooper. How you going to do this? How you going to do that? Hey, listen, why should Bernie lay it out on the table when everybody else has got the, we can't plan on the table?
No, Bloomberg's got plans.
We can't do that.
Bloomberg's got plans,
well,
and primarily they were plagiarized, apparently. That was being reported in the news today, that Bloomberg just basically stole his plans from others. But he's got plans. He published
Mike,
them.
I'm down. I mean, if it's the Kaiser Institute study and he's going to do it with a tax, I mean, it should. If the numbers are out there, I mean, you should claim it. Yes, absolutely. Because if you're not going to, and I'm quoting again the CNN piece where he said he didn't need to do it right now. So, I mean, I just, and I understand, obviously his opponent, at least in the primary last time around, Mike, Hillary Clinton takes some exception to that. I mean, I understand it. She represents the core and the base of what is the Democratic Party to my perception, and Bernie is an independent who goes along with them. So there's going to be, I think it's natural to expect there to be some pushback, especially when the guy starts doing pretty well. He continues the winning streaks that he had from the last time around, and their perceived winner, Joe Biden, come on, taking fourth in Iowa is terrible. He's going to get his ass handed to him again in New Hampshire. Oh, he'll be on. I mean, he might still be there, but I guess ultimately,
No, I want him to be there. I want him to be there. He needs to stay in it to keep Buttigieg from getting all his votes. Because, you know what, I hate to say this, but the cost of marijuana is going up for me. Because every time somebody ruined my buzz, I got to smoke another one, right? And this is just getting to the point where, okay, as much as I smoke, I'm still seeing this more than everybody else. I mean, I don't know if you watch the town hall, but you got Anderson Cooper with, just cold pointed, at Bernie. And then right after that, it's Buttigieg, and Cuomo is just warm and cuddly, and they're laughing, and they're all having a good time. I mean, don't people see what's going on here? The first thing I would ask Pete Buttigieg, who marched with us once in the fight for 15, but so did a lot of others, and then they went with the candidate for 12. How are you going to support 15? How are you going to get $15 an hour when you're taking money from the billionaires in Wall Street? They're not going to like that plan. I mean, people need to wake up, all right? This shift.
All right, but Mike, let me respond briefly, if I may. But based on your criticism, then you think that if Bernie Sanders gets elected and he does the wealth tax and he does these things, that somehow Anderson Cooper is going to get a pay cut? I mean, I don't understand what your point is.
Oh, boy. Yes, absolutely. Do you know how much these
Gloria
companies
Vanderbilt's
get paid
son.
by the corporations? 7 figures. Okay, so if Bernie wins, they're obsolete, dude. They need Trump or some moderate to win so that the controversies can continue and they can do their little show on TV. None of this affects them. None of this affects the legislators and people in Washington when we all take the cuts. They never get hit by any of it. I'm tired of being gamed by D.C. I'm tired of people gaming themselves, man. This is all about us. This isn't about Bernie. This is about us, and he's representing us. And if people don't want to get on board with that, they're going to see more devastation in this country and this world. And I know where it's going. I don't think we're going to make it through this, but I'm not going to quit till, my last breath. But if people don't understand why they're against Bernie, well, of course it's going to affect their income, because the plans and policies are not going to be funded towards them and funneled towards them anymore. The corporations are going to have to kick in. The Wall Street billionaires and all these guys that are making money off the backs of workers, get a real job, damn it.
Appreciate the call, Pizza Box Mike. Just to reinforce a couple of the points you made, Anderson Cooper, broadcaster, news anchor, and reporter for CNN and CBS, has a net worth valued over $100 million and earns an annual income of over $12 million. Not bad work if you can get it. One other point, Vox reported this article from way back.
Okay, hang on, if I may briefly. But I guess my point is to Mike would be, okay, he's making $12 million annually, right? He's probably under contract.
Net worth of over $100 million. He is Gloria Vanderbilt's
Okay, so he inherited
son.
money. I understand that, but I'm talking about right now. So he gets paid under contract from CNN?
CNN and CBS.
Okay, so he gets paid. Now, he's under contract, right? Annual buy-in on 5-year, 10-year contract. Who knows what he's under? The next president comes in. I mean, CNN is still going to pay him that contract, right? Now, he might be taxed higher, but he's not going to get paid less from the
No, he's going to
corporate
get taxed
media.
higher. That's the same complaint the Koch brothers and everybody else has, like the Walton family, Dom. It's not that anyone gets paid less. It's that these billionaires might have to pay anything. They don't want to give any of it back. Not a nickel, not a shilling, not a half pence.
So billionaires are bad people.
They're greedy bastards, man. You can't accumulate multiple billions of dollars without being a greedy SOB. That's my opinion. And I have no desire to be a billionaire. That's not my American dream.
I want to be a billionaire so freaking bad. Maybe
One more
write a
thought.
song.
Vox headline, this one a little bit dated, 2018. Bernie Sanders' $32 trillion Medicare for All plan is actually kind of a bargain. The federal government would spend a lot more money on healthcare, but overall, U.S. health spending would be about the same as otherwise projected. Only everyone would have coverage. God, that would really drive the billionaires nuts.
Probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for the American worker.
Mr. Trump, do not tell us that you are a friend of the working class.
The following is a public service message from Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
In 2020, Wisconsin has 4 statewide elections. Make sure you are registered to vote. Republicans are doing everything they can to make it more difficult for citizens to cast their ballot. Americans have fought and died for the right to vote. The next election is the spring primary on February 18th. Check your registration at myvote.wi.gov.
So, Dave, I hear you and your team at Community PC can really help a guy like me when I'm having a hard time keeping my computer up to date.
Oh yeah, Crudy. Community PC provides great service from trusted local technicians to give our clients peace of mind when it comes to their computers.
Why, wait on hold all day?
Our team can provide you with immediate trusted remote service. We also offer timely on-site service in Dane and Rock counties. Find us at commpc.com to learn more. Community PC. We know what makes computers happy.
Teamsters Local 200 encourages you to vote in Wisconsin's primary February 18th. The Wisconsin Supreme Court, Milwaukee Mayor and County Executive primaries, plus local judicial and supervisor races are all on the ballot. When the polls close at 8 p.m., tune in to exclusive election night coverage on Wisconsin's Political Talk Network, 101.7 FM Milwaukee and Talk 92.7 FM Madison, hosted by Maggie Dawn and Earl Ingram Jr. Live Tuesday, February 18th. Brought to you by Teamsters Local 200. Your vote matters.
Milwaukee, tune in from 11 to 2 on Talk 101.7 FM for the Thom Hartmann Program. Join the show's conversation because our democracy is not a spectator sport. Listen live Monday through Friday right here on Talk 101.7 FM, Wisconsin's political talk network.
Hey guys, I'm Maggie Dawn, your lady lawyer, legal eagle, and sensei of economics. Tune into my show, Dawn of the Resistance, live Thursdays and Fridays from 6 to 7 on WRRD 1510 AM. Always streaming live at newstalk1510am.com.
I wanna be a billionaire so freaking bad. Buy all of the things I never had.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. It's Friday. It's the last segment of the day. So if you got something to say, you better do it right now. Dial us up at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, have we ever had to throw a host of another fine show out of the studio before?
We never have, but we do have a few minutes of fine radio left.
We've done so now.
Crudy, if you were handed $1 billion, would you take it?
Oh, yeah, I'd take it.
Would you take financing for radio stations from a billionaire or a millionaire?
Sure.
Okay, so you would do business with bad people.
I consider them funders.
Well, so does Buttigieg.
Most of the banks I borrowed money from are bad people.
So does Buttigieg. So do all the politicians, man. I mean, I get it. I love the fact that...
I had one wish that I could wish this holiday season.
I mean, I totally get it, and I love the grassroots thing, and man, I'm down for all of that. But not everybody does that thing. People have different connections. People have different motivations.
Some imply that Buttigieg is coordinating with the super PAC. That would be entirely different.
Well, something illegal, I understand, Crudy, but what we're talking about is funding, and lots of people will take funding, take issue with them getting the money, how they got it, and how they treat people, but we'll still cash the checks.
How about the Hillary Victory Fund? Was that all kosher, that workaround on campaign finance laws where bundlers could give $353,000 to Hillary's campaign? And then the state party, they got what, like
a little piece of it,
$33,000 of it. And then they sent the rest all back to Hillary. And then they were supposed to spend the $33,000 promoting Hillary's campaign on the ground in their respective states. And 40 state campaigns chose to sign on to that corrupt campaign finance
Wisconsin
system, including Martha Lanning and the state of Wisconsin, and I called her out on it, and I think it was corrupt as hell, and I think in no small part, that's why the Democrats had such a hard time differentiating themselves from the Republicans. You can't feed at the same trough and then act like you're not the same sort of pig. And by pig, I mean corporatist.
But it wasn't against the law, right? I mean,
I'm not sure that it wasn't against the law.
Here's the thing, man, and
that's
we
campaign
get the money
finance
out
bundling.
of politics. I love that. Okay, but how? I mean, money is like water and gravity,
First, you
man.
gotta want it out.
It finds the way.
You got to want it out. I don't believe that a guy like Pete Buttigieg, that if successful in this campaign, if he's the nominee, he will owe much of his success to the big dollar financiers of his campaign, as every other candidate who accepts big money will need to do. And if you accept super PAC support for your campaign, you got another whole row of really, really big dollar donors, because they're not limited by the $2,700 cap on federal election campaigns. And that's where the real money will pour in to support a guy like Buttigieg. Wall Street will fund a super PAC. And he'll say, "Oh, that's not me. That's the super PAC." Right? So if we play by the same rules, and I'm not saying disarm, unilateral disarmament.
That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying there are some people that can do it without the benefit of the
I get
super
it.
PAC.
Then there's some that can't. And should they just disarm? Because
No,
that is exactly what you're saying.
They should
Trudy.
just lose.
So if you can't raise it $27 at a time, don't even bother.
No,
not as a Democrat.
You're just going to lose to my guy who's raising $25 million at $27 a pop, because that's a show of real support from real people. That's not Wall Street saying, "Hey, keep controlling policy. Tax policy so far so good. You can make big claims, but just don't rock the boat too much."
Didn't
around the
Biden
fringes.
say something like that? Things won't drastically change.
Yeah, that's why Biden is dropping like a Led Zeppelin in the polls. In some part, I don't think.
Do you think there's a disconnect from the establishment of the Democratic Party and those that are on the ground casting the votes?
Sure. Sure, I don't think that any party's elites, and I don't characterize simply the Democrats this way, party elites are different than the people in Iowa, the people in New Hampshire, and the people on the ground, because the vast majority of them are not party insiders. They don't have the money,
but they're part of the party,
resources.
So they're engaging in party politics, and by the fact that they're part of the party, are they not, tacitly endorsing the process?
You mean because they what? Go out and knock some doors? That's the same as some guy giving millions of dollars like what's her face, the widow Hendricks, has done to Scott Walker historically? I mean, that's not the same. You knocking on a door this weekend in support of Pete Buttigieg is not the same as some billionaire giving $5 million to a super PAC in your support. That is not the same one iota. And it may feel like nickels to her. That might be, pocket change to Diane Hendricks, the millions she threw behind Republican campaigns or Uline. But if we use the very same tact, if we nominate a candidate that is heavily dependent on the support financially of millionaires and billionaires, well, who are they beholden to if they win? The same people. I mean, Donald Trump had that part right. Talked about Scott Walker. Scott Walker came looking for money. I gave him $10,000.
Now, what about the candidate who has such a strong sense of character that they take all the money in and then they do the right thing and go with the people and the policies when they get in?
Well, I tell you what, Dom, I have, through the course of doing business 25 or 30 years, never have I not been influenced by someone's active business generosity. You do business with me, you're a friend of mine. I'm just telling you, that is the way of the world. You scratch my back, I scratch yours.
One hand washes the other, they both wash the face.
Yeah, no doubt.
So what? So that's the way of the world, and now that's not supposed to happen in politics?
If nothing else, you give them access that the average citizen will never gain. Will never gain. And what do you know? If you surround yourself with a bunch of billionaires, you're talking a little tax policy at the cocktail party. Well, what do you know? Next thing you know, designated S corporations have a 21% tax rate because millionaire Ron Johnson told supposed billionaire Donald Trump that that's what he wanted and that's what he freaking got, right? And then you try to tell a guy like me that that's for my benefit.
Help me understand. Where are we supposed to make the break from? This is how the world works, and that's how it is. But it's not supposed to happen in politics.
No, I'm not saying it's not supposed to happen.
Well, then what are you talking about?
Draw a contrast with those that would seek and embrace the millions and the billions with a guy like Bernie Sanders or a candidate like Elizabeth Warren, and you make your choice. And I'm going to choose my guy because my guy is authentic. I believe my guy is not influenced by the $27 or the couch cushion nickels and dimes that people send him in envelopes each week. And if your army of supporters don't give you $27 a month, if you can't raise money except in $2,700 increments, well, maybe you don't deserve to be the nominee of the Democratic Party because there's nothing too democratic about being a freaking billionaire. Sorry, Tom Steyer. Sorry, Bloomberg, and whoever's funding Pete Buttigieg's campaign. Thank you for listening.
So lower the amount of money you can donate to $27, Curdy?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
How about federally funded campaigns?
Ooh, I like that
used to
idea.
be the system. I think Barack Obama said, I can raise money outside the federal system.
That was the first lie.
Yeah, well, he did it. And he perverted his own case. Come back with us on Monday. Thank you, James Santel. Thank you, Maggie Dawn, for clearing the studio. Stick around. Dawn of the Resistance with Maggie Dawn is next. You're going to enjoy it. She's all fired up.
And billions 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 and billions.
Hello, Milwaukee. This is Terman Spencer. I'm running for Milwaukee City Attorney. I'm a strong leader.